Good afternoon to our listeners on Parliament Radio 105.5 FM, our viewers on the Parliament channel, and those of you joining us via the World Wide Web on the Parliament's YouTube channel, ParlView, or via our website, www.ttparliament.org. We are 1 minute away from the resumption of the proceedings of the Standing Finance Committee of the House of Representatives. The Tobago House of Assembly was in progress when the proceedings were suspended for lunch. Following the THA will be the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government, Ministry of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries, Ministry of Works and Transport, Integrity Commission, Parliament, Central Administrative Services, Tobago, and the last head to be examined will be the President. So we expect that the proceedings of Standing Finance Committee will conclude today. The Senate will sit tomorrow. It's Thursday at 1:30 p.m. and we expect that the budget debate in the Senate will last some 3 or 4 days. So we take you over now to the chamber for the resumption of the Standing Finance Committee.
Please rise. Call the chair.
Please. The meeting of the Standing Finance Committee is now resumed, and we are now at item 003, Economic Infrastructure, pages 21 to 30. Member for Caroni East.
Line item 463, Honourable Speaker.
Page 21.
Item 463. There was an estimate of 5 million for agricultural access roads, but 47 million was spent. Is there an explanation for that? And another 25 million is now budgeted.
Yeah, it is obvious that the original provision in 2016 was inadequate in terms of the work program of the THA. If you look at 2015, actually it was 57 million. So that the 47 is consistent with the 57 in 2015, and the 25 also consistent.
So you reduce it. Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Same line item 463. Can we get a listing of these access roads that were completed? Thank you.
Item 004, Social Infrastructure, pages 31 to 43. Item 005, Multi-Sectoral and Other Services. Member for Shogunas East.
Madam Chair, can I ask a question on page 32? 764, line item. Line item 764, Young Scholars Program. Can I get an idea as to what this is all about? The age group, what's the purpose of it? Yes, second to last one, 764. Okay.
Can we go on to, any more questions in item 004? Yes, Caroni.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. For 770, new construction of Scarborough RC. In 2016, 15 million was estimated and 15 million spent.
Page 33.
And I see 75 million estimated for 2017. Is the cost of that primary school going to be $90 million? And if so, what's the size of the school in terms of how many children will be accommodated there? And the square footage area of the school to cost $90 million. One primary school. In Trinidad, we were building primary schools for $15 and $16 and $18 million. What has happened?
We'll have to look into that, get back to you on that.
Yeah, I want to say that you should look into that very carefully. And 784, Madam Chair, establishment of childhood centers. Could the Honourable Minister indicate Tobago under the IDB was...
Page are you on?
31, Madam Chair.
Page what?
31004.
Could you remember, please control your device. You are page 31?
Yeah.
Are you in item 004?
Yeah, social infrastructure.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, we are just in item 004, which is page 31 to page 43. No, no.
About 6 pages.
No, please, members. I said item 003, economic infrastructure, pages 21 to 30. So if somebody wanted to start with 30, they were open too. If somebody wanted to go into 25, they were open too. In fact, there was no response from anybody. I had reached item 005 and went back to entertain Shogunas West, East. So we at page, yes, please, 31.
Line item 784. The $2 million, is that going to be for help with the construction of 5 ECC centers, which had been arranged since 2015 for Tobago, with the IADB, with part IADB funding and part government funding?
No.
No? So this $2 million is separate for that 5 ECC centers?
Yes.
Minister, as we on that childhood centers, is there anywhere that this 5 ECC centers, which was earmarked for Tobago, incorporated in the budgetary allocation? Because you have part funding from IDB and part funding from the government.
I'm advised that the IDB program did not get off the ground. This is for construction of childhood centers in Tobago through the
Minister of Planning, you
THA.
should look into that. No.
Minister of Planning and Development.
Thank you very much, Madam. Madam Chairman, there were 5 centers that were supposed to be built in Tobago and 20, if I'm not mistaken, 21 in Trinidad. The center,
Member, could you kindly...
Sure, sorry.
these centers were done in Trinidad and none were done in Tobago. The IDB is now looking into making sure that we do the ones in Tobago because there was nothing done in Tobago.
No, Madam Minister.
Nothing done in
Madam
Tobago
Minister,
with
the
regard
team
to
from
that
Trinidad went
IDB.
across.
Is
With
this a
regard to the
question?
IDB program.
Are you aware?
And so in an
Yeah.
effort to bring equity, the IDB is now dealing with the Tobago centers.
Madam Chair, I want to ask the Honourable Minister, is she aware that a team from Trinidad together with the IB had already negotiated for where the centers have to be constructed, and they were in the process of
Remember
starting
the
tenders?
relevance of that in terms of the line item that
No, I
is
wanted
here?
to just make sure that the Minister knew, and it's not fair for the Minister to say something.
This is for questions, and really and truly, let's try and use the time
But,
in
Chair-
a very productive way. Member for
Chair,
Couva North, and then Couva South. Member for Couva North.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Line item 812, improvement, refurbishment, extension to primary school. I'm seeing page 31. A 2 million estimate, but really and truly, is that just for one primary school, or because look at the title to that line item, primary school. Is that just for one primary school?
Schools.
Okay, so that will need to be changed. Thanks.
Member for Orpuch East. Item 005, multi-sectoral and other services, pages 44 to 47. Member for Shogunas East.
Madam Chair, just page 43, 016.
43?
Yeah, page 43.
I'm on page 44 to 47.
Okay, all right. Okay.
And with page 31.
And you reach 44?
And you reach 44?
Members, you know, as I said, I know it's day 5 and we must be tired. But I know what I said. I said, and at the time we were at 004, I said it pages 31 to 43. I'm now at 005, multi-sectoral and other services, pages 44 to 47. You have a question, Oropuchis?
7, but if that is what you said, I will.
Yeah,
forgo the
I'm sorry.
question.
Honorable
Yeah.
members. Member for Couva North.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Line item 008, establishment of an integrated financial management system. I'm seeing an allocation of 1.5. There's a drastic increase in allocation. Can we get some clarification as to this system? How far is
We are at page
44.
44, 008.
008, yeah. Line item 008.
Could you summarize the question, please?
008, there is an allocation of 1.5 million, a drastic
that.
increase for the establishment of that integrated financial management system. Can we get some clarification?
That is what the allocation is for?
How far are we into this establishment of this system? Because we have seen previous years' allocations were meted.
They are going into the procurement phase in 2017, hence the increase in the allocation.
Okay, thanks.
I notice on page 46, items 594 to 604, inclusive 96, 98, 600, 602, 604, the construction of several mini malls. I'd just like to have an understanding as to whether the Tobago House of Assembly is in fact constructing malls, and whether these malls have been constructed, whether they are rented out.
Yes and yes.
So the
Thank
business
you,
of constructing
Madam Chair. I
malls.
have questions on page 45, item 542. Construction of Prime Minister's residence, an allocation of 500,000 in 2016, a revised estimate in 2016 of 500,000, and no allocation in 2017. Was this money utilized in 2016?
No.
Member for Shogunas, for Couva North.
Madam Chair, line item 560, construction of the Scarborough Abattoir. I'm seeing 3.5 million allocated in 2017. How far are we into this construction, if anything at all? Because there were previous allocations of 1 million and then 2 million in 2016.
They're basically reconstructing the abattoir.
Okay. Madam Chair.
Yes, member for Couva North.
Line item 568, expansion of the Calder Hall Administrative Complex. There's an allocation, an increase in the allocation by 4 million in 2017 to 5 million. How far are we into that expansion?
They are into the construction phase in 2017. Previous to that, they were doing designs and securing approvals.
Okay, thanks.
Member for Caroni East.
Line item 641, construction of sanctuary resort for 25 million. Could we have an understanding of what this resort is and how does THA become involved in that? A sanctuary resort for $25 million. Page 47.
When you finish it,
641, line item.
Okay, the Sanctuary Resort is a tourist facility in the Black Rock area. The THA has purchased the facility, is going to renovate it, rebuild it and so on, and then lease it out to an operator or hire an operator to operate it in the same way the Magdalena is operated.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm on page 44, line item 022. Line item 024. For the 600,000 that was spent for 15 and 16, with respect to the networking Department of Education with schools, how many schools have been networked with the department?
There's no allocation for that in 2017.
No, not 17. I was asking a question in terms of what was expended already now. How much?
We'll get that information for you.
Okay.
For Couva North.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Line item 742, page 47, purchase of vehicles and equipment. We're seeing a drastic increase there, 15 million allocated in 2017. Can we get some clarification?
The equipment and vehicles of the THA have reached the end of their useful life. They're going to go into a major fleet replacement program.
Thank you.
Member for Couva South.
Just going back to 641, the
Just
sanctuary.
guide us to the page, please. 47.
47.
Yes.
This resort that the minister indicated that 25 million has been allocated for in 2017. He said that it was purchased by the Tobago House of Assembly. Could you tell us the purchase price, please?
We don't want to guess, we'll get that information for you.
And could you provide us with the details of who did the valuation report and so on?
Anything else you want to know?
But Minister, I am
Because you said,
asking why.
and so on.
Why?
So what you would like to
seem
know?
to be a bit touchy on this issue?
Members, member for Couva South, do you want to just detail precisely what you want to ensure that the response accords with your
Yeah,
expectation?
what does and so on
Member
mean?
for Diego Martin.
Seem to be a bit touchy on this issue.
Member for Diego Martin notice, and member for Couva South. Member for Tabakit.
We'd like to get a copy of the valuation report for item 641, the cost at which it was bought, and the 642, the upgrade of Mantelage. Is the Mantelage owned by the Tobago House of Assembly?
Yeah.
And was it bought recently, and if so, when, and who did the valuation?
Both of these
Yes,
things.
for both of them, yes.
You want to know the purchase price,
Purchase price?
who it was bought from, the valuation.
Yes.
You will get that information.
Thank you.
Honorable members, the question is that the sum of $2,333,590,000 for Head 15, Tobago House of Assembly, stand part of the schedule. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. The sum of $2,333,590,000 for Head 15, Tobago House of Assembly, now stands part of the schedule. I'd like to thank all the members and representatives from the Tobago House of Assembly. Safe journey home. We're moving on. Head 42, Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government. Head 42, and members, we're going back to the recurrent book in the interest of time at page 301. Head 42, Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government. $2,497,445,800. I will now invite the Minister of Rural Development and Local Government to make a brief opening statement, not exceeding 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Distinguished members of the House of Representatives, it is a privilege to stand before the Standing Finance Committee of the House to answer questions on each line item on points of clarification, and in some cases, I guess, to be interrogated, and I feel rightfully so. Before I begin, Madam Chairman, I think it is important to put into context where we are in the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government. You will recall that during the 2015 election campaign, the People's National Movement articulated two key policy areas of fundamental policy shift. One, local government reform, in particular, the devolution of power and authority to regional corporations, and in addition to the new responsibilities for the regional corporation, in particular, social service delivery. And two, the creation and operationalization of a Ministry of Rural Development to focus on rural infrastructure and improving rural amenities and the basic lifestyle of rural peoples. With regards to local government reform, during 2016, we concluded 14 consultations and prepared a policy paper which was approved by Cabinet. As we speak, we are currently in the process of drafting the legislative changes to effect this policy position. So it is in this context, Madam President, and I want to repeat, it's in this context, the budget template and the budget figures remain by and large the same, with no major shift as yet from 2016. With regards to rural development, we will focus on improved rural infrastructure by budgeting for a myriad of small rural infrastructure projects, with one mega project carried under the Ministry of Rural Development, which is the Moruga Fishing Port and related facility. Bearing in mind other major rural projects, while they do not fall directly under the Ministry of Rural Development, the Ministry of Rural Development has input into its formulation, and I speak particularly here to the new arterial road from Valencia to Toco and the ferry service from Toco to Tobago. Additionally, the Ministry of Rural Development, which has oversight responsibility for all rural projects and amenities, will be working with the relevant ministries this year to finalize policies on 1, rural banking, 2, rural housing, 3, rural broadband services, 4, rural transport, and 5, rural-based industries. And here I speak particularly of agro-processing, as we link closely with the Ministry of Agriculture, Lands and Fisheries. Finally, Madam Chairman, with CPEP now under the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government, we plan to make the operations more efficient and relevant to the new expenditure level that we have now given to CPEP. With these brief comments, I thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable members, the question is that the sum of $2,497,455,800 for the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government stand part of the schedule. Honorable members, the sum of $2,497,445,800 for the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government is comprised of monies proposed for expenditure under the following subheads and items to be found in the draft estimates of recurrent expenditure, the draft estimates of the revenue and expenditure of the statutory boards and similar bodies and of the Tobago House of Assembly, and the draft estimates of the development program. We now proceed to consider the draft estimates of recurrent expenditure. Subhead 01, Personnel Expenditure, page 301, item 001, General Administration. Member for Tabakit.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Minister, how many persons are now employed at the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government, and how many vacancies there are now? And when I say employed, I mean on permanent positions and on contract positions.
With regards contract positions, there are currently 336 contract positions available in the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government. 273 are currently filled. There are 63 vacancies, and there are also 14 short-term employees. The
14?
4, yeah.
Short-term. And what about the permanent?
Okay. We don't have that figure with us, but I'll get it to you. Yeah.
Okay. And the total establishment for the Ministry of Local Government is how many?
Yeah. It's approximately 15,000, including the 14 regional corporations.
Approximately?
Yeah, give or take. But we can always provide the exact amount at a later date.
Sure.
Head 02, Goods and Services, item 001, General Administration, pages 301 and 302. Member for Tabakit.
Again, I noticed on the 0216, contract employment, I noticed that there has been a general decrease in contract employees in 2016 from 25.7 to 20.3 and now down 19.392. Can the Minister explain what are the reasons for this cutback in contract employment?
Yeah, there are a lot of vacancies that are not filled. That is why you had the revised estimate significantly lower than the original estimate. And this time around, we obviously, all ministries have a cut, but we will fill as much vacancy as the funding would require.
So you have less contract workers?
Yes, we will have less.
So-
No, but we are not laying off contract workers, because as we speak, there are something like 73 vacancies. And even though we may have a chance to fill probably half or even more than half of them with the allocation that we have.
But with the lesser allocation of $974,000, it is obvious, am I right to conclude that you are not going to be able to fill the vacancies?
Probably not all.
So in other words, are you agreeing then that some people will not get back their jobs?
No, there are currently 73 positions that are not filled, and the ministry is still running okay. Remember, sometimes these establishments, they are made whenever they were made, but when you make your systems more efficient, a lot of the positions, I'm not saying they will be redundant, but you can survive and run an efficient operation without filling all the established positions. And that is symptomatic of government right.
I'm not disagreeing with you now.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to clarify
Yeah.
the
Okay.
numbers.
Okay.
Similarly, short-term employment has been decreased by 3.5 million. Reasons are the same?
Yeah, those are people with contracts less than 3 years.
So they have gone home.
No, most of them have been renewed on a month-to-month basis.
Mr. Minister, the allocation in 2016, the revised estimate was $5 million, and you're down now to $1.5 million. So obviously, it cannot be the same number.
Yeah. I'm told the original estimate, you'll see here, was 1.528 million.
Right.
We had wired money to bring it up to 5 million.
Right.
And I'm being told by the PS here that we plan to do the same thing this year.
To buy it again?
Yeah.
But you've already decreased it, so you're going to go back in the...
We go back to the same 2016 estimate is what is the 2017 estimate. And as and when required, we will probably wire some money, because we do have a need for some of those short-term contracts, especially for skill sets that are not part of the official establishment, like engineering assistants, quantity surveyors, civil engineers, and the like.
Sure.
Subhead 03, minor equipment purchases, page 303, item 001, general administration. Subhead 04, current transfers and subsidies, page 303, item 001, regional bodies. Item 002, Commonwealth bodies, page 303. Item 007, households, page 304. Item 009, other transfers. Member for Oropouche East.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Looking at the other transfers, 04 to the Community-Based Environmental Protection Enhancement Program. Minister, as you recognize, this program's vote moved from an estimate in 2016 of $609,000. $609 million. Revised estimate 2016, 531 million, and now you are down to $425 million. Could you indicate to us the manpower fallout, in raw terms, the unemployment that will result from the thousands of workers who, as of now, contractors, as you know, have been asked to reduce their teams from 6 to 3 by October 31st as a deadline. How much thousands of workers you expect to be relieved of employment in this program to synchronize with the shortage, the reduced allocation?
I just want to make the point that a program like CPEP was conceptualized to provide a service.
Madam Chair, could I respond to this to the Minister?
John?
I'll ask questions in response to his statement.
No, but remember, what I'm saying is if the Minister has responded and you want further elucidation, you can ask a question.
Thank you very much.
Madam Chairman, I want to make the point that In the 2010 budget, the CPEP allocation was approximately $350 million. At that point in time, CPEP had approximately 6,000 workers. In 2016, the allocation was about 600 million, with a workforce of 12,000 employees. The country wasn't cleaner, you know. So what you are saying is there's a tremendous superfluity in the employment pattern of CPEP. What we are trying to do with reduced income now is not to keep inflating that program. So 425 million, we think, is a reasonable quantum of money for CPEP to carry out its original mandate. And while the number will obviously drop from 10,000 to something lower, we will be managing it carefully. For example, I proudly say that we have not touched a single contractor for 1 year. And okay, so we are now progressively shredding some of the teams, employing some new contractors as we roll out this program in a balanced format. I will even go further. I mean, I don't want to get too political here today, but with 12,000 employees and 264 CPEP contractors, and I want the nation to know this, the constituency of Port of Spain North, St. Anne's West, which is Minister Young's constituency, has 0 contractors. 0.
No, that's not.
12,000 employees, 264 contractors.
Who you replace?
Port of Spain North, St. Anne's West has 0 contractors.
McIntosh had contractors.
Digo Martin West, the constituency of our Honorable Prime Minister, now has 2. 2. Siparia has 12. 12. So I don't want to go down that road. We're dealing here line by line with actual figures. But I am saying confidently here today, Madam Chairman, that 425 million is a reasonable figure for us to make CPEP carry out its mandate as an environmental company to have Trinidad and Tobago looking pristine once more.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Chair, and thank you for giving me equal time to respond to the Minister with questions. Members,
please.
Questions.
It's a question.
Mr. Minister, I'll ask again, have you worked out the figure of the employment fallout that will result from your shredding of labor as per the directive of the CPEP? My follow-up question is, are you aware of the range of work done by CPEP from 2010 to 2015, including the marine cleanup, including the support to community-based organizations, including rural construction, minor work projects throughout the country? Mr. Minister, are you aware of the impact CPEP had in reducing flooding throughout Trinidad? Are you aware of the projects that were done by CPEP in the hospital, for example, that the Minister of Health is now aware of?
Right.
Are you aware of the projects done by CPEP in the police stations?
Member for Oropuch East, are these rhetorical questions?
No, they're serious questions.
I mean, I think if you want the Minister to answer, you can't give a barrage one after the other.
Well, I'll come back after with the others.
And therein lies, Madam Chairman, the fundamental problem with CPEP. Because CPEP drifted away from its mandate. The Marine, I support the Marine initiative, but there are about 4 contractors that have been cleaning up some of the sea frontage, which I intend to keep. But you see the projects, Madam Chairman, CPEP, through some program called Health Initiative on Northwest and North Central Regional Health Authority, repaired something like 35 health centers. Wait, no, don't knock yet. Don't knock yet. Go here, Bill none. 35 health centers repairs for $134 million.
4 million in repairs.
$134 million. And the rationale for that program is that CPEP was using its project management skills to undertake that program. Because you know why? In the last administration, Madam Chairman, everybody wanted to award contracts. So PSAEL had contracts for pavilion, for grounds, for box trade. CISL awarding contracts. Rural Development Company awarding contracts. Eastern Port of Spain, everybody wanted a
created a lot of
portfolio
micro-entrepreneurs.
where you must award contracts. CPEP will be going back to its original moorings. Bonsi Trace Community Center, something like $8 or $9 million. The community centers
Well, they
still
said
has not been
28
handed
first.
over to the Ministry of Community Development.
But they
So
said
all
28.
these things were not in cognizance with the CPEP mandate. And I think we will bring back CPEP to its moorings, and 425 million, I compliment the Minister of Finance. I think that is adequate funding for the CPEP program to take care of its original mandate.
Member
Could
for
I-
Tabakit?
Ma'am, that's it? No
Member
more
for
follow-up?
Tabakit?
Mr. Minister, you said there were 12 contractors in Superior and 2 contractors. Would you also agree that the geographic size of a constituency would also necessitate more contractors in one area compared to another
Well, yes,
area?
well, in that context, the constituency that should have the most contractors is Toko Sandigrandi, Mayaro, Moruga Tablan, Arima, believe it or not, because Arima takes care way up from Blanchishes coming down to things. So the rationale for your spread of contractors defies logic.
Okay.
Item 011, transfers to state enterprises, page 304. Member for Tabakit.
Thank you. Madam Chairman, through you. Item 5, what is the status of the Princestown Regional Corporation Administrative Building? Is it now on hold, or will it be constructed? And may I just add to that, if you permit, the Pinal DB Regional Corporation?
Yes, Madam Chairman. Sorry. I want to answer this question from the top. The regional corporations are housed in extremely poor spaces. The prototype that was being proposed by the last PNM administration under Mrs. Hazel Manning was something that resembles the current Chaguanas Borough Corporation. And I'm proud to say here, as a PNM senator, that the first regional headquarters that we built for the regional corporation was built in Chaguanas. Okay? Now, we had continued now to roll out that plan. And Mr. Jaspal Bogal was the architect, and he designed 4 regional corporation headquarters. One in Diego Martin, one in Arima, one in Princestown, and one in Pinal DB. We who built the one in Chaguanas, The UNC went ahead now and took out a loan to build Princestown. And the Sunday before the election, the Honorable Kamala Prasad Bisesa in K2 Trace turned the sod for the Pinal DB headquarters. The Sunday, I will go even further. The Pinal DB regional headquarters is on K2 Trace, which is flat land. It is a 2-story building with 35,000 square feet of office space. And the contract was awarded for $124 million. That is $3,500 per square foot. Okay, so what we did, we canceled all those contracts. Cabinet took a decision last month to go back out with 2 corporations, Diego Martin and Pinal DB. And I was mandated by the Prime Minister to build those 2 corporations for the same $124 million, which I intend to do. $60 million for one. And one of the corporations in penal development was already awarded for a stunning sum of $124 million, a two-story building on flat land at 3,000. So, Mr. Dr. Ambachan, you are a builder. $3,500 a square foot.
But I'd just like to ask you, I'd just like to ask a question. What were the engineers' estimates for the projects?
That whole system was
Well, what
flawed.
was the engineers' estimate?
Members, we on transfers.
But we on transfers and
members,
subsidies.
we on transfers to state enterprises. Page 304. Subhead 06. Members, subhead 06, current transfers to statutory boards and similar bodies. Page 305. Member for Couva North and member for St. Joseph. 004, statutory bodies, page 305. Members will now move on to the draft estimates of revenue and expenditure of the statutory boards, similar bodies and the Tobago House of Assembly. We are going on to a new book, 23, page 224. 23, Port of Spain City Corporation. Subhead 01, personal expenditure. 001, General Administration, page 224. (002), Public Health and Disposal, page 224. 003, Abattoirs, Markets and Dining Shed, page 224. 004, Transport and Cleansing, page 225. 005, Squares, Playgrounds and Trees, page 225. 006, Stores, Works and Repairs, page 225. 007, Cemeteries and Crematorium, page 225. 008, Woodbrook Estate, page 224. Subhead 02, Goods and Services, page 226. 001, General Administration, page 226. 002, Public Health and Disposal, page 227. 003, Abattoirs, Markets and Dining Shed, page 227. 004, Transport and Cleansing, page 228. 005, Squares, Playgrounds and Trees, page 228. 006, Stores, Works and Repairs, pages 228 and 229. 007, Cemeteries and Crematorium, page 229.
That you must call out each one of these on these pages. That, in other words, I don't think we have any questions on these. And if it is by that you have to call it out, we'll just have to sit and hear you call it out.
Well,
or we can adopt it. But there's just one item on
Member,
that. Yeah.
I really relish your suggestion, but there will be no way I will know unless maybe you would like to suggest to your whip that you pass to the chair the pages that you're interested in. Otherwise, I will have to go through this. Where have I reached? But you can explore the suggestion with your whip and he can forward it to me. 003, Abattoirs, Markets and Dining Shed, page 230. 004, Transport and Cleansing, page 230. 005, Squares, Playgrounds and Trees, page 231. 006, Stores, Works and Repairs, page 231. 007, Cemeteries and Crematorium, subhead 04, current transfers and subsidies, page 231. 005, non-profit institutions. 007, households. 009, other transfers. 24, San Fernando City Corporation, subhead 01, personal expenditure. We are at page 243. 001, general administration. 002, city and departments of maintenance. 003, institutions. 004, parks, playgrounds and cemeteries. 005, transport. 006, local health authority. We are at subhead 02, goods and services, page 245. 001, general administration. 002, city and departments of maintenance. 003, institutions. 004, parks, playgrounds and cemeteries. 005, transport. 006, local health authority. Subhead 03, we are at page 247, minor equipment and purchases. 001, general administration. 002, city and departments of maintenance. 003, institutions. 004, parks, playgrounds and cemeteries. Member for Chaguanas West.
Madam Chair, I have been advised by my colleagues that their first question arises at page 305. So we can proceed, adopt.
Okay, and therefore maybe if I can just call the subheads and I don't go into the line items.
Page
Okay.
305 of the.
So, subhead 03, minor equipment purchases. Subhead 04, current transfers and subsidies, that's page 248. 25, the Arima Borough Corporation. 26, Point Forte Borough Corporation. 27, Chaguanas Borough Corporation. 28, Diego Martin Regional Corporation. 305. So therefore, we now start at 30, the Tunapuna Piarco Regional Corporation. Subhead 01, personal expenditure, page 305. 001, general administration, page 305.
I think the page the same list you were calling now. The item we were interested in is item number 37 on that list. On that page 305 where the corporations are listed.
Is it DP?
305 of the
Yeah.
of the details of estimates of recurrent expenditure.
837, yeah.
Regional Corporation Services. Okay, so that therefore I could take it 30 Tunapuna Corporation,
Yes.
31 Sandy Grande Regional Corporation, 32 Kuva Tabaki Talparo Regional Corporation, 35 Pinal Dibe Regional Corporation, 36 Princess Town
Yes,
Regional Corporation, 38 the Trinidad and
No,
Tobago.
37.
All right, so we now on page 305, item 37, the Regional
Yes.
Corporation Services
Right.
General.
And that's the question.
Go back to there.
You lost me, yes?
So we're at 305 recurrent.
Yes.
The sub-item is 37, Regional Corporation Services General. Member for Tobago.
Right. And I want to know, there's an increase there of 30,255,000. Regional Corporation Services General. and it's up from 7.5 million, which was spent in 2016, revised from 22 million. What is this $37.755 million for, and how it's going to be spent? In terms of your definition as Regional Cooperation Services General.
What happened here, Madam Chairman, is that you will recall that as part of the local government reform process, we had given the undertaking that we will be beefing up the municipal police force to 100 per corporation. We have Cabinet has already approved that policy even ahead of the legislative agenda, and we will be starting the recruitment process to beef up the municipal police force, and we have budgeted $13.7 million in the first phase for this year.
13.7.
13.7.
And how many officers?
About 140 officers.
To be divided among the 40?
Well, we haven't sorted out that yet, because we will be working closely now with the Statutory Authority Service Commission and the Public Service Commission, because one of the things we want to incorporate in this municipal police is regionality, okay? But under the way the public service and the statutory service recruits, they recruit nationally. So we're trying to work out a system in which we can accomplish that goal.
What provision are you making for accommodation of these new police officers? Because are you aware that the only police station that exists is in the Chaguanas Borough Corporation? I also built it during my time.
Yes.
So the question is?
The question is that we will deal with that on an as and when required basis, depending on what is the strength of the police. But it is an area that I have my eye closely looking at.
Member for Carneys.
Yes.
And we have, sorry, let me just finish here. We have a 10 million allocated for additional expenditure on the scavenging contracts. As we speak, the scavenging contracts are now being handled by NIFDEC, and we expect to make an award on these new scavenging contracts in about a month's time, and we expect some additional expenditure there. We always budget something for water trucking in the case of an intense dry season. We have budgeted at $2 million for that, and to top up the $37 million, we have budgeted $12 million for retirement benefits for daily paid workers in the corporation.
Minister?
Yeah?
Line item 32, the Cuba Tobacco Talparo Regional Corporation. There's a decrease of 5.36.
No, wait. Please.
We passed that.
Member for Carney.
No. My
East.
colleague asked about...
Member for Carney
Yes.
East. I was given a directive by your whip, and I have acted in accordance with that.
Well, there is a question
There
on the
is
same page.
only one item according to
All right,
what I was
okay.
directed.
57.
Fine,
Okay? Thank you very much. We are 37.
Yes, on the minister's statement that 12 million is being budgeted for retirement benefits. Is that really retirement benefits, or do you have a plan to offer VSEP to local government people, and this will be a matter of severance?
No, not at all. It's retirement benefits, and as we speak, if there will be any manpower changes in local government, it will be adding new people, obviously with the reform exercise.
Honorable Member, we will now move on to the draft estimates of the development program, a different book, subhead 09, page 130, development program, consolidated fund, page 130, item 003, economic infrastructure, page 130, item 005, multi-sectoral and other services, pages 131 to page 138. Member for Carney Central.
Yes. Through your chair to the minister, 026, the local area and regional development planning process, that is now deleted from your portfolio, is that it?
We are awaiting we have proposed amendments to the planning bill. Based on the outcome of that, we will determine what will happen here.
Okay, so in terms...
Planning and facilitation bill.
Okay, but there is no allocation for it. What does that mean for the course of the year?
Yeah, I'm told that this was to design a comprehensive local area and regional planning process that has been completed. But the actual regional corporations doing their own spatial plan has been put on hold for the time being.
Okay, and 030, the Carry-led project continues under the corporations to which they were aligned?
Yeah.
Okay.
Member for Oropouche East.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just some clarification from the Minister. I'm at 031, Amendment of the Municipal Corporation Act. There was an estimate of $1 million. To my recollection, there was no amendment. Was this $1 million plus that was used for the reform and consultations for local government?
No, not at all.
Okay, so it was not used, effectively?
This vote was not used.
Okay, thank you. But Minister, you had indicated that there will be no local government election without reform. That still stands, or that has also gone?
No, there will be a local government election shortly, but because it is.
So there will be reform after.
Well, we are in the process of doing the reform. We have completed the policy position, and we've started drafting the legislation.
Sure.
Okay, Infrastructure Development Fund, page 312, item 004, Social Infrastructure, page 312. Member for Oropouche East.
Yes, ma'am. 312, I'm with you here. But 311, I can't ask a question on other services there.
Well, 311, I believe, is a summary page.
Okay. See the Moruga something. Anyway, this item 007, upgrade of community infrastructure in South and Southeast Trinidad, 007. The budget, the actual spent in 2015 was 5.8 million. There was an estimate of 25 million 2016, meaning, Minister, you would have had a work program asking for $25 million to implement something. This was revised, estimated downward to 3 million, and now you are back to 15 million. What works does this entail? Which agency will carry out this work? Because you were unable to spend the $25 million which you planned to spend and would have had a program to spend that.
No, actually, that money, that $25 million, most of that figure was budgeted to pay the contractor for the outfitting of Ward Alexandra Place, COSL Supplies Limited. After investigations, we were advised by the Office of the Attorney General not to proceed with the payment because that matter is now under their review.
But Minister, are you saying that last year when we approved the budget, 25 million was we passed with the notion and the understanding it was to upgrade community infrastructure in South and Southeast Trinidad? It was not used for that and used for another purpose?
No. It is budgeted under Palaseco Agricultural Enterprises Limited. That's how the budget is structured.
So Palaseco Enterprises Limited took the money for infrastructure in South and Southeast Trinidad to pay for outfitting of a building?
Because that was part of infrastructure as an outstanding bill from the previous year.
No, I understand that, but
yeah,
it was for the community enhancement and infrastructure.
Yes.
It was not for outfitting.
That's just how the
so
budget
that is a breach.
is
There's a
written.
breach. A
Okay,
serious breach where money is budgeted for one head
money
and it's not
assigned to
spent.
Palaseco Agricultural Enterprises for infrastructure work, and it was to pay for a former infrastructure work.
Minister of Finance.
Yes.
But there's a way you can
me.
go to cabinet and get a funding for that.
Minister of Finance wants to lend some clarity to this situation.
For clarification, the former government used the Palaseco Enterprises Company to do that project in Port of Spain.
Exactly. With that funding.
That's why it was there with that allocation and that funding in Port of Spain.
Is there another question? Member for Caroni East.
001, in 2015, the CISL was given some funding, But in 2016 and 2017, no funding. Does that mean that's the end of?
Falls with the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government.
So where does CISL fall?
CISL falls with the Minister of Community Development.
And the same thing with Rudicott, Rural Development?
No, rural falls with the Rural Ministry, Ministry of Rural Development.
Rural Development, right, okay.
Item 005, multi-sectoral and other services, page 313. Honorable members, the question is that the sum of 2 billion
on page 311.
311.
311, while you had said it was a summary sheet, there was a line item there of 001 of Maruga Fishing Port.
All right, I'll take it because I'm now being corrected by the clerk. So we just take, this is 003, economic infrastructure. Yes, member for Urupuchi.
Yeah, thank you very much. On this matter, ma'am, so I wanted to ask the minister if he can provide us with the information now or in writing as to the construction of this integrated fishing port facility in Maruga. What piece of land are you looking at and the ownership of the land? Is it state land? Is it private land? Are you acquiring land from a private owner for the purpose of that? And at what cost? And an estimate of what is the cost of this project?
The approximate cost of the project, the project is largely an offshore project. It is a causeway with an offshore facility that will dock 150 pirogues. It has all the facilities constructed offshore. So the footprint is really an offshore structure. There will be some component of it that will be onshore, and it is in the heart of Gashime. And the RDC is currently negotiating with the landowners to acquire a small piece of land. It's not significant.
Could you indicate now or in writing as an assurance the identity of the landowner and the amount of land to be acquired and at what cost?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I will so do.
We want actually taken from the fish.
Am I entitled to ask a question on the total on page 314? You have line items 43001003 005, but there is a line of total. I just want to bring to the attention of the Honorable Minister, out of your estimate of 825...
Page 14 is the Ministry of Works and Transport.
Oh, yes.
Honorable members,
All right,
the question is that the sum of $2,497,445,800 for the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government stand part of the schedule. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The sum of $2,497,445,800 for the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government now stands part of the schedule. Honorable Minister, I thank you, PS, and the staff of the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government. Head 77, Ministry of Agriculture, Lands and Fisheries. Excuse me, and just to ensure that we are all on the same page, we are starting at page 543 of the recurrent expenditure. Head 77, Ministry of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries, $829,281,240. Page 543, under the recurrent. I now invite the Minister of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries to make a brief opening statement, not exceeding 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. I just want to make 4 points in the opening. The first is to say that in 2015-2016, this ministry had to be built out of the former Ministry of Food Production and the Ministry of Land and Marine Resources. The new ministry also includes the Forestry Division and other parts of the former Ministry of Water Resources and the Environment. The ministry also includes parts of the former Ministry of Tourism. I say that because it would be reflected in all the documentation where we've made no allocations in certain areas and new allocations that we didn't have before. The second point I would make is on the issue of the recurrent expenditure, and I hope I'm anticipating some questions. The first is that when the government took the decision on the 7% cut on the recurrent expenditure, the ministry offered an 18% cut and actually achieved the objective of reducing expenditure on the recurrent side in the last fiscal year. Even though we reduced the expenditure on the recurrent side, Madam Chairman, we still managed to deal with some liabilities that we inherited from previous financial years, and that included about 30 million in agriculture incentive payments that we've managed to clear, settlement long outstanding to rice farmers and the national flour mills, settlement outstanding to the cocoa farmers, and long outstanding compensation payments to farmers. Third point I would make is on the development program. We started fiscal 2015-2016 with over 100 items on the PSIP, many of which were long-standing items which were poorly conceived as development projects. Some of these projects in the PSIP for the last fiscal were either pure recurrent expenditure or partially recurrent expenditure, which involved payment of wages and purchase of consumables and other non-development activities. So in this year's development program, you would see that we've reduced the number of line items to about 60 through the removal of what was described previously as projects to the recurrent side. We've partially executed some of these projects in the last fiscal. We've amalgamated some of the projects to remove silos which existed before, so the projects are coherent, cohesive, and implementable. The focus on the development side is on the areas of IT, water resource management, research, extension, and training. And in conclusion, Madam Chairman, overall, we started the last financial year with an allocation on the development side of $243 million. We took the deliberate decision to defer certain expenditure in relation to EMBD, Namdevco, Moruga Port, which we are not involved in, project in the zoo, which we treated as recurrent, and a new project under Forestry 014, which is still in the development stage. So in reality, while the original allocation was 243, we worked with a development program that was $123 million, of which $43 million has already been expended, and all of those programs reappear in this year's development program. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable members, the question is that the sum of $829,281,240 for Head 77, Ministry of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries, stand part of the schedule. Honorable members, the sum of $829,281,240 for Head 77, Ministry of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries, is comprised of monies proposed for expenditure under the following subheads and items to be found in the draft estimates of recurrent expenditure, the draft estimates of the revenue and expenditure of the statutory boards and similar bodies and of the Tobago House of Assembly, and the draft estimates of the development program. We now proceed to consider the draft estimates of recurrent expenditure. Sub-item 01, personal expenditure, page 543. Item 001, general administration, member for Miaro.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Minister, in terms of item 01, salaries and cost of living allowance, and item 08, vacant posts, could the minister advise, either here or in writing, what is the current staffing level at the Ministry of Agriculture? What is the ratio of permanent staff versus contract staff, and the amount of vacant posts that needs to be filled in fiscal 2017?
Thank you. I'll provide a response in writing.
Member for Couva South.
Chairman, to the Minister, I see for the 2017 estimates under wages and cost of living, there's an increase of $9 million. Could the minister account for this increase in expenditure?
Might I ask what item number you at?
02 wages and cost of living.
And what page are you on? And you're seeing an increase of $9 million?
Yeah.
I'm not seeing that.
Well, that's my.
We're at page
Yeah.
543?
I'm on 544.
I'm sorry, we're in 001, General Administration. Item 002, Agriculture, page 544. I'll take you now, Couva South.
As I said, Chairman.
So you're not even in 002. Member for Miaru.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Item 014, remuneration to members of cabinet-appointed committees. Could the minister just advise us as to what is the current purpose of this board and who comprises this board at the moment? Comprise this board at the moment. Thank you.
Well, that is, as item number 14, cabinet-appointed committees are committees like the Wildlife Conservation Committees, which is a statutory committee, and there are various committees in the ministry which are required to be appointed by law.
Member for Tabakit.
Under 0022, there has been a decrease of $7.4 million under wages and cost of living allowance. What accounts for this $7.4 million decrease?
Well, as I said at the opening, this ministry had to be constructed out of two ministries and some other parts of ministries. And in bringing everything together, we've had, for the best use of the resources that we've had, we have some redistribution of staff. So you'd find in some areas we've projected some reductions, in some areas there are small increases, and that is because of either redistribution of resources across the ministry or deliberate decision not to pursue the filling of vacancies.
Member for Couva South.
Madam Chair, back to the issue of 02 wages and cost of living. The increase of
002, huh?
Ah, you're still there?
Yes, we're still there.
Okay.
Member for Caroni East.
Question to the Honourable Minister. In the amalgamation of those three ministries, you said that there was a question of a few losses, jobs losses. Could you give us an estimation of the amount of jobs lost as a result of the bringing together of these three ministries?
I didn't say there were job losses. I said that in the amalgamation of ministries, each of the two ministries and the other component parts of other ministries, we would have had a duplication of human resources. And in the area where we had contracted persons, when those contracts expired, in many cases they were not renewed. And in those areas where we had vacancies which could be filled based on resources brought in from another part of a ministry, that was pursued. So in the aggregate, there's been no reduction in the numbers in the Ministry of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries.
Could you give an idea about how many officers were under the contract employment which ended at a particular time?
I could give that in writing to you.
Item 003, Animal Production and Health, pages 544 and 545. Member for Couva South.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to reiterate again to the Minister, this increase of $9 million, could he account for the increase?
Right, as I said before, in the amalgamation of two ministries and parts of different ministries, we've redistributed the resources where they are required. So you'd find that there are reductions under some subheads and there are increases under some subheads. And this relates to the daily paid workers and the redistribution of those workers for the most efficient use of the human resources.
So the Animal Production and Health Division, how many workers were in terms of the increase in numbers?
I would have to give you that in writing.
Could you please provide?
Item 0, Tabakit. Item 004?
No, 3.
Item 003, Tabakit.
Now, Minister, the salaries and cost of living is 11.6, wages and cost of living 23.5. That's $35 million. And this has animal production. What kind of animal production is going on here? And are you satisfied that we are getting value for money? What is the objective of this animal production unit, and what has been the achievements?
I think I've publicly expressed my dissatisfaction, and if to sum it up, we've engaged a consultant, a well-qualified local consultant now based in the U.S. called Professor Marlon Knights. He's had a lot of experience in local livestock to conduct a review. But even before he started, in preparing the terms of reference, I identified that the ministry, especially in the use of human resources and resources generally, was too inward-looking. We have spent a lot of time on our own farms, for example, the one in Morro Valley, Aripo, and across the country, and we have not used the resources to develop the private farms and support private farmers. And I've been saying that we need to refocus, do less work on just maintenance of herds within the ministry, focus on things like artificial insemination and supporting farmers, particularly in things like vet services and other technical services, and do more work outside, reducing how much we do within the ministry until it's critical, unless it's critical.
Does this animal production unit include the sheep farm?
Yeah, small ruminants,
Yeah.
the buffalipso, cattle, all of those.
And what has happened, may I ask, to the black belly sheep project? Has it progressed or has it died?
I think most of those projects have either flatlined or declined over a period of time because we've not been investing the resources in the right places.
So, Minister, there has to be a great concern with the expenditure of $35 million a year in this unit without any kind of real benefit for the country.
Of course, it's a big concern across this ministry, and I imagine your biggest expenditure is in recurrent expenditure. And if your human resources are not properly selected and properly positioned to execute the work, then essentially you're wasting your time. And that is why it is important especially in creating a ministry, that we make the best use of the human resources, because
Minister, are you in any way considering whether this $35 million could be used instead to support the smaller private farms?
Exactly.
And allow them to expand?
Yes, exactly. That is the idea. The idea is that we should reduce, except in the areas. So, for example, the buffalipso, that's a classic example. Since 2003, when Caroni ceased operations, we've maintained a buffalipso herd in Morro Valley. It's a brucellosis herd, which means that it's infected. And we've done absolutely nothing in the last 13 years in terms of a policy decision on what we're going to do with that herd. But it costs taxpayers $2 or $3 million a year, or $50 million since 2003 just to maintain that.
50 million.
So we have to make some decisive decisions in terms of how we use the future of the ministry's livestock assets, including the herd and the physical assets, and how we deploy the human resources.
In that connection, Mr. Minister, what is the size of the herd in La Gloria, and is it a healthy herd?
There's no herd in La Gloria. The buffalipso herd is in Morro Valley. It's about 900. Maybe 60% of the herd is infected with brucellosis. So, as I said, Dr. Knights is doing a comprehensive review, but as he's gone along, I've received recommendations from him based on my own observations and the technical input of the ministry. So in relation to buffalipso, for example, we have to accelerate the culling of the brucellosis herd, and we have to preserve the non-infected herd, and the proposal is to do that in La Gloria.
East? No. Member for Chaguanas West?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Honourable Minister is indicating the inefficiency associated with state sector involvement in the animal production. Are you considering a private sector, public sector partnership with respect to the facilities you have, whether it's in Centeno, whether it's in Mora Valley, whether it's in La Gloria, whether it is in Cunupia?
Yeah, well, again, across the ministry, but in livestock in particular, the future lies in private-public partnership. I don't think that taxpayers could sustain the level of investment and the sort of work that needs to be done. I think the ministry's role is in developing the standards, pursuing the legislative changes that have to be made, setting the safety and health standards, dealing with the product quality and those things. But there is a role for the private sector, especially given the investment we've already made in some of the physical assets.
Member for Naparima.
Thank you very much. Has the minister given consideration to a gap analysis between how much, for example, beef we import, how much we produce, and what targets we could set realistically to reduce that expenditure, that outflow of foreign exchange?
Well, I've been very deliberate in the first year in not pursuing production targets, but pursuing the policy, the legislative changes, and the resource allocations that will lead us to making production decisions. But the problems across agriculture and fisheries are far too fundamental. The agriculture on the whole is too vulnerable for us to make production decisions without dealing with the foundation of agriculture.
Follow up. Could you give us an idea of when the policy infrastructure and the legislative changes would be made so that at some stage this country would be in a position to have some idea? Because you hear some people say,
we've got a question.
Yeah, okay. In this term, I'm confident that legislation will be laid dealing with animal health, food safety, the long-awaited fisheries bill, which deals with some of the recent problems we've had. And we've invested a lot of time on the PSIP. One of the changes in the terms of the approach to PSIP is ensuring that wherever we do a development project, we engage the appropriate consultants to do the legislative part of it and the regulatory part of it, which is always something that comes way down the road and is not taken into consideration in the project development from the outset.
Member for Kamuta Manzanilla.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Honorable Ministers, could you advise on where is Professor Knight from? Where is his
Where in Trinidad?
Oh, he's a local.
Well, he's based at a university in the United States. He lectures and does his work in the U.S.
Which U.S.? Which university?
I could supply the name.
All right.
But he has a long affiliation with UTT, with the ministry, with UE. He's a UE graduate, and he has done a lot of work with locals, and we have UTT students who are working with him in the U.S.
East.
Agricultural and applied economics. I think he's a Horn professor. Yeah, HORN.
Item 004, horticulture, page 545. Member for Tabakit.
Madam Chairman, through you to the Minister. Minister, just like in the case of animal production and health, we are spending approximately $16 million between salaries and wages on horticulture.
Yeah.
$16 million. And this country imports quite a lot of flowers. What is the production of this particular element of your ministry in terms of its possible contribution to replacing such imports of flowers into the country and saving foreign exchange? What is your level of satisfaction with its production?
Well, just to clarify, horticulture could be misleading. The budget for horticulture covers the upkeep of the botanic gardens,
right,
the work in the Queen's Park, Savannah, and the work across some horticulture stations that we have in the country. But to answer your question, again, there is in the development program, for the first time, a new PSIP to develop in communities the capacity to do propagation of horticulture products and sale and so on. And again, just like plant propagation in the ministry, horticulture is one of those areas that I believe we should reduce what we spend internally and spend more of the resources to develop the private sector or to develop community groups and horticulture among those entrepreneurs who are already involved in it.
In pursuing that policy, therefore, that change in your philosophy, would that then mean that you will have to offer VSEP to people in these divisions? And if so, how do you intend to pursue
no, I don't think that in a lot of these divisions, the bulk of the labor force would be daily paid workers, and we'd have attrition over a period of time. And we also have the opportunity in many cases to redeploy workers. So the idea is to preserve the employment levels as far as we could. But, you know, we are in constant contact, discussions with the daily paid representative union, again, to make sure that given the size of the wage bill and the demands, we make best use of the resources.
All right, thank you.
Item 005, Land and Marine Resources. Item 006, Surveys and Mapping, member for Miaro.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Minister, I'm looking at the salaries and cost of living allowances under 01 at $14 million. Is there, in terms of the issues surrounding land tenancy and the surveying, is any of that backlog residing inside that area of your ministry in terms of lands and surveys as far as you are aware?
Well, there's some of the backlog, some of the problems at the end of the chain rest with land and surveys, because they're the ones to approve the plan. And we've just had a new commissioner of state lands appointed, and she's been given some very clear deliverables, and that covers improving the efficiency. She's a GIS land surveyor by profession, and we have to improve the efficiency not only at lands and surveys, but from the time somebody makes a request of the ministry in relation to the use of state land to the end, there are inefficiencies all along. And you'd see in the development program how we've made a commitment in terms of IT infrastructure to deal with some of those inefficiencies.
Okay.
Item 007, Land Management. Item 008, Fisheries. Item 009, Agricultural Land Administration Division. Item 010, Forestry. Subhead 02, Goods and Services, page 549. Item 001, General Administration. Item 002, Agriculture. Page 551, 002, member for Naparima.
08, rent lease, and I'm only asking this in the context of the fact that you're moving to new facilities and therefore $1 million for rent. 008 551, $1 million.
Yes, well, this is the ministry has much of the property is state-owned, but we do in fact rent premises in different places in the country, including up at El Socorro for the lands division.
Okay, and these cannot be accommodated
in
Chaguanas?
The Chaguanas will accommodate 250, and we have about 250 base at St. Clair. By mid-January, we would assuming that the work that is, the final works are completed by mid-December.
Item 003, animal production and health. Item 004, horticulture. Item 005, land and marine resources. Item 006, surveys and mapping. Item 007, land management. Item 008, fisheries. Item 009, agricultural land administration division. Item 010, forestry. Subhead 03, minor equipment purchases, page 560. Item 001, general administration. Item 002, agriculture. Item 003, animal production and health. Item 004, horticulture. Item 005, land and marine resources. Item 006, surveys and mapping. Item 007, land management. Item 008, fisheries. Item 009, agricultural land administration division. Item 010, forestry. Subhead 04, current transfers and subsidies, page 563. Item 002, Commonwealth bodies. Item 003, United Nations organizations. Item 005, non-profit institutions. Member for Kamuto Manzanilla.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Honorable Ministers, can you just expand on Animals Alive, please, 07907?
Page 564.
Yeah, Animals Alive operates in Oropuch. It's a dog rescue operation that supports several regional corporations around the country.
Member for Couva South.
Madam Chair, under 00504 Sugarcane Feed Center, see a reduction in the allocation of $1.4 million. What does that entail, and is there any possible human resource fallout and so on, or manpower?
No, there's no manpower fallout out of that. All that happens there is that the SFC is going to be better managed in this fiscal. It's been put, I think you know the history of SFC. It's operated for a long time. It started off as a project funded by CEDA, and it's operated a long time without a direct relationship with the ministry. And it's now been brought into the animal health section of the ministry, and it's going to be managed in a way that it could do what it's supposed to do, and we could manage it especially on the cost side. But there isn't going to be any fallout in terms of jobs if we get it right.
Member for Chaguanas East.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Honorable Minister, CFTDI has been around for quite a while. I don't know what your plans are for it going forward. At one time, there was an intention to move it to another ministry.
Well, we've had a comprehensive review of the ministry's involvement in fisheries. We found that the ministry is involved through its own fisheries division. We also have the Seafood Industry Development Company, which is a state company. We have CFTDI, which is a hangover from a previous relationship with the region. We have an aquaculture unit in the ministry. We have the same SFC with aquaculture operations. So in this fiscal, we've already taken some decisions to rationalize the involvement in fisheries, and it will impact SIDC. it would impact CFTDI. But CFTDI performs a very valuable role in training in the maritime sector, as you know, in the areas that UTT does not provide the training. In fact, they are used by UTT and THA and other organizations. So there's value in the training element, but there's need to remove some of the duplication across the fisheries sector.
Member for Chaguanas.
Just a follow-up question, Minister. I know the location has always been and continues to be at Chagamas. In view of the new vision that you have for it, do you plan to have any satellites of this in other parts of the country?
Well, there's a lot of value in leaving CFTDI there and in dealing with SIDC, that SIDC and CFTDI work together. And once we've gotten that structure right, there is also value in, as we've said, as I've said, the ministry should function through all its offices across the country, offering all the services that we are capable.
Member for Chaguanas West. East.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Madam Chair. Honourable Minister, line item 02. That has been another institution around for a very, very long time. I don't know if you are satisfied with the work of CADI or what plans you have for it.
Well, as a government, as you know, because of the structure of CADI, we make a financial contribution. And the reality is that CADI is undergoing its own review and would present its report to the governors. But the reality is that some of the other islands do not have the sort of Ministry of Agriculture, the sort of resources we have. And the reason for CADI has always been that they would do work with those islands that do not have the technical capacity. And Trinidad, even though we make very limited use of them, we're happy to have them here because there are times when we do have to call upon them. And they're also available to those countries in the region that does not have the capacity.
Okay, member for Couva North.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, line item 05 and 06, Rural Women Producers Network, line item 5, and the 4-H Young Farmers Club, line item 6. Can you tell us about these two club and network?
Well, the Rural Women Producers Network, they do a lot of valuable work. This is a very small allocation that we make to them for specific uses. They do a lot of work in areas like Tobago, for example, where earlier this year they launched a program for the women in that area to bake bread and sell using an earthen oven. And they source their funding through the international and regional agencies, and this is a small contribution we make to keeping them active. 4-H, of course, over the years, 4-H has been in decline, but we've also said as a government that we intend to promote the growth of school gardens in school. As a ministry, we recognize the importance of supporting the agriculture curriculum that starts in the standard 3, the primary school, and goes right up through the secondary school. And 4-H, as a school-based organization, plays an important role. And this money is intended to assist 4-H in becoming more modern in its approach to dealing with its remit.
So can we expect the 4-H Young Farmers Club to have a new work program in terms of visiting schools?
Yeah, the work program, I've been very clear to 4-H since last year that the work program has to be modernized. They can't be doing what they've been doing for the last 20 years. But the ministry also recognizes that we have to provide them not only with this subvention that we manage, but also some of the technical resources that they require.
Thanks.
Sugarcane Feed Center, I just want to come back to that for a moment. You said, okay, you moved the Sugarcane Feed Center to the Animal Production Unit. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you now have a work plan for the Sugarcane Feed Center with measurable objectives as to what they want to achieve? For example, the production of fingerlings, tilapia. It's difficult to get if you call them, for example. What kind of work program you have for them that can justify the spending of $8 million to $9 million a year.
That is part of the remit of the consultancy Dr. Knights is doing. And in answering that question, I'll say across the ministry, I'm sure you're going to ask me about agriculture incentives. We've been paying out, we've been spending and making what we call investments without measuring the return on that investment. And perhaps that is why agriculture production as a contribution to GDP has flatlined, because we've been making what I consider to be investments, but we have not been measuring the impact of that investment. And bringing SFC in closer to the ministry, and also giving a fresh mandate to the Livestock and Livestock Products Board, and engaging Dr. Knights to assist us in charting the way forward are important elements of making sure that we measure and we ultimately boost production.
Member for Kamuja Manzanilla.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Honorable Ministers, just two questions, but just to go back on what it is you just spoke about, 04 Sugarcane Feeds Center. Dr. Knights is assisting with the sugarcane as well as with the animal, right?
With the Sugarcane Feed Center, which is, the name is misleading, it's a livestock operation.
All right. And
Yeah.
and you're stating that this 9.4 would go towards his fees?
No. This 9.4 keeps the SFC in operation.
All right, okay. And on line 06, the 4-H young farmers, I know it's a new project that you're a new way forward. Would you be able to submit in writing the project schools, the pilot schools that you'll be looking at to initially start in, please?
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
Member for Naparima.
Much. Going back to 01, Caribbean Fisheries Training and Development Institute, and I know the minister has spoken about rationalization of the Institute of Marine Affairs and the other institutions involved in fisheries. Which institution in the ministry is responsible for monitoring fish, the size of the fish, in particular the pollution and the impact in the context of the fish kill? Rather than wait for it to happen and then we run to do studies, is there somebody constantly monitoring it to give the population some comfort that they're eating healthy fish?
And just in your question, you've crisscrossed so many ministries, and that is a challenge. The EMA has a rule under the law, and that is why, in relation to the recent fish kill, we've been very careful to ensure that the EMA is left to do their work. So from a quality and regulatory point of view, it's the EMA. In terms of the research side of it, the IMA has that responsibility. The ministry has the responsibility in relation to the fisher folk themselves, their physical assets, and monitoring them. And I just want to make the point, because this fisheries bill will reach the Parliament, and I expect support for it on both sides, because it's been a long time. And I don't think that people realize that in this country, the boat ownership, for example, is under the Ministry of Works, the Maritime Division, but the various activities in fishing, including the quality of the fish, is not subject to any form of regulation. The Minister of Health will eventually lay in Parliament a new version of the food drugs legislation, which includes regulation to modernize fish and the sale of fish and the health issues relating to fish. So we've been really operating in an environment where we have many agencies and ministries operating, but more importantly, without a modern regulatory framework to guide, even on the area of trawling and all those things. We've been advocating for a long time, but in this term of the Parliament, we have to settle those issues.
Member for Chaguanas West.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to the Honourable Minister. There was a item on 008 subsidies, 04 relief for flood damage. The allocation was reduced in 2016 on the revised estimates to 4 million, and it is further reduced in 2017 to 2 million, decrease of 2 million. Now, two questions really. In the absence of irrigation, proper irrigation systems, and you don't have that anyway, the likelihood of flood with significant rainfall and torrential rainfall increases. But the flood factor is there. But then there's the other question of what you pay in relief to the agriculturalist, to the farmer, because when you put their input in cost of the plant, cost of preparation of the land, cost of the fertilizer input, insecticide input, what is you have to increase the relief, and that has not been increased for over a decade. Subsidies.
Move that.
04. Relief of flood damage. So when you get flooded out, you paid for the plants, item by item.
Okay. I haven't reached there yet.
Well,
so I take it that
hold the answer until we reach there.
There are no questions for item 008 households?
7
households? Okay, so we are 008 subsidies.
Yeah, I thought you mentioned two factors. I thought you were going to get to number 3. The fact that we have people who habitually make flood compensation claims. Now,
well, I'm not aware of that. Yeah.
There are people, but there is need to. I accept what you say. There is need. When did we review it recently? There's need to be more realistic in the quantum of the compensation, but at the same time, the ministry is engaged in a review of flood compensation we've made historically to identify those persons. You see, this compensation is meant to deal for unforeseen circumstances. And if you're planting year after year on a riverbank or in a flood-prone area, then it's not an unforeseen circumstance. And we have people, we believe that there are people who are just habitual flood compensation claimants. So on the one hand, we are committed to review the levels of compensation, but on the other hand, we have to weed out those who are habitual claimants.
Yeah, I want to temper your regulatory approach, Minister, with the reality that in some instances there's no land available other than the land in the floodplains, because there is no access to water.
Yeah, okay. I accept that.
Member for Kamuto Manzanella.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Honorable Ministers, line item 02, incentive program. I saw in 2016 estimated at 4 million, and then of course it went to 800,000 in 2017. Have you revised your policy on incentive program, or can you?
Okay, there's several things we've done on the agriculture incentive program. In the opening, I made the point that notwithstanding working with a reduced recurrent expenditure, we were able to deal with long outstanding liabilities in relation to agriculture incentives. So we have entered this fiscal year without the sort of backlog that we've had historically. In other words, we're carrying forward a lower level of liability. That's the first thing. The second thing is that the Minister of Finance announced last year that inputs in agriculture were going to be made tax-free, and that included vehicles and vessels. Now, in the agriculture incentive program, the biggest claim we have comes from vehicles ostensibly for use in agriculture. That's the biggest. And under the current system, a rebate is paid to the claimant over 3 years, and based on the average cost of the vehicle, that amounts to about $13,000 a year. It means that with the tax-free status being given to that vehicle, the ministry will no longer have to pay the rebate, because the VAT and the duty and all of that are not going to be paid. Not only does that make it a more efficient system where the buyer does not have to put out the money and get the repayment over 3 years, but it also means that the ministry can make a lower provision under the Agriculture Incentive Program. Having said that, that program is under review because in its existence, it's not a program that has been monitored to determine whether the spending we make actually impacts agriculture production. So we've engaged Dr. Sipasad from UE to review the program, to identify for us an appropriate model for that program, where in some cases it would mean removing particular incentives that do not encourage production, and in some cases improving certain incentives that will improve production. And finally, we have to put, the Minister of Finance has demanded that we put in place a system where people who are granted these incentives for vehicles and equipment are monitored so that we are assured that they actually use it for agricultural production.
Minister of Planning and Development.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, mine is not a question or an answer to any question that has been asked as far. I am just bringing to the attention of my colleagues that we have, and I mean on both sides, that we still have the Ministry of Works and Transport, the Integrity Commission, the Office of the Parliament, CAST, and Office of the President to be done. And we have to be finished by 7:50 today. And I'm sure those on the other side are interested in getting answers to quite a number of areas in these heads that I've mentioned. And it is now 3:19, Madam. I'm very concerned about the time because we have so many other heads to be done.
Thank you so much, Madam Minister.
Madam Chair, we are aware, and we are proceeding accordingly.
Member
Maybe I could discuss
Kamuto Manson.
leaving tea out on this occasion, and people could just filter out and get tea.
I just want to assure all members, whatever happens, we will meet the requisite deadline. The chair is quite aware. Kamuto Manson.
Thank you. Honorable Ministers, will there be consultation with the stakeholders before proceeding on any amendment to the incentive program?
Yeah, of course, we've done that.
North?
Question was answered, ma'am.
Okay. 009, other transfers. Member for Shogunas East.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Honorable Minister, on line item 03, as you're aware, some work has been started on the farmers market in Shogunas, Woodford Lodge. Do you plan to continue that and to use that as the farmers market for that area?
Well, it's still uncertain whether that is the best location. So, in fact, we believe that the expansive yard of the new head office in Shogunas is ideal for a farmers market, because if you've seen the way the farmers market has operated in the savannah, for example, it's a market that is set up and taken down in half day or one day, and we are going to be exploring that location for a farmers market. And the facility at Woodford Lodge will be put to the best use that the government finds appropriate for it.
A point of order.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To the Honourable Minister, line item 02, the YAPA. In 2016, you had estimated 4.7. So I guess you had some good plans for that program. But I noticed in 2016, the revised estimate is 500,000, $500,000. What has happened to that program, and why didn't borne fruit as you would have envisioned back in 2015, 2016?
Well, given the timing we had for the 2015-2016 budget, very little could be done in terms of adjustments. But over this fiscal year, we've looked at, again, the issue of duplication in projects targeting youth. And for the next fiscal year, the $1 million that has been estimated is to provide specific incentives for youth in agriculture in the area of agribusiness development. I meet a lot of young people who have ideas, but the ideas need to be developed, and this $1 million is to create a facility, not a physical facility, to allow them to develop the idea.
Line item 05, Minister, Tourism Development Facilities. Could you just expand what they are?
Well, the ministry has responsibility for some what we call tourist facilities, like the Water Wheel in Diego Martin, and some other smaller facilities, and that is allocated for the continued upgrade of those facilities.
Member Fimiaro.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Minister, it is my understanding that on item 01, the Livestock and Livestock Products Board has been basically disbanded. The office shut up for the last 9 or 10 months, yet I'm seeing a $1 million allocation. Can you give us a status on that board?
Well, the Livestock and Livestock Products Board, my assessment of the work of the board is that the board not the persons, the board itself as an institution had not performed the development work that it was required to do under the Act. And for that reason, there was no value in paying board fees to people who were not doing what the law required them to do. And part of the work that Dr. Knights has been doing would be handed to the Livestock Board as part of their mandate under the law for execution. And that is why we've made provision. The board, after consultation with the appropriate people, the names have been prepared and the board will be appointed.
Item 010, other transfers abroad, page 565. Item 011, transfers to state enterprises, page 566. Subhead 06, current transfers to statutory boards and similar bodies, page 566, 004, statutory boards. Honorable members, we shall now move on to the draft estimates of revenue and expenditure to statutory boards and similar bodies and the Tobago House of Assembly. We are page 499 of that book. 08, Agriculture Society of Trinidad and Tobago. Subhead 01, Personal Expenditure. 001, General Administration, page 499. Head 02, Goods and Services. 001, General Administration, page 499. Subhead 03, Minor Equipment Purchases, page 500. 001, General Administration, page 500. Subhead 04, Current Transfers and Subsidies. 007, Households, page 500. 09, National Agricultural Marketing and Development Corporation. Subhead 01, Personal Expenditure, page 505. 001, General Administration. Subhead 02, Goods and Services. 001, General Administration, pages 505 and 506. Subhead 03, Minor Equipment Purchases. 001, General Administration, page 506. Subhead 04, Current Transfers and Subsidies. 007, Households, page 506. 009, other transfers, page 506. 10, Cocoa and Coffee Industry Board, subhead 01, personal expenditure, page 513. 001, General Administration, page 513. Subhead 02, Goods and Services, 001, General Administration, page 513. 11, Zoological Society of Trinidad and Tobago, subhead 01, Personnel Expenditure, 001, General Administration, page 518. Subhead 02, Goods and Services, 001, General Administration, page 5118. Subhead 03, Minor Equipment Purchases, 001, General Administration, page 519. Subhead 04, Current Transfers and Subsidies, 007 Households, page 519. Honorable members, we will now proceed on to the Draft Estimates of Development Program, New Book, page 247. Subhead 09, Development Program, Consolidated Fund, page 247. Item 001, Pre-Investment, page 247, Member for Miaro.
Sorry, ma'am.
Item 002, Productive Sectors, page 248, Member for Caroni Central.
Through you, Chair, to the Minister, St. Augustine Nurseries. I see that there's a small allocation for that. What's happening with the nurseries in St. Joseph? St. Augustine, really, QREP.
We found on a review of the nurseries, including the St. Augustine nurseries, we found that notwithstanding the resources that have been committed, farmers across the country have not been receiving the levels of planting material. With the development of the two new nurseries in Ecclesville in Rio Claro and Catskill in Moruga, we're going to do both the nurseries for the forestry division and the nurseries required, the work required for plant propagation. So,
at St. Augustine?
And we're gonna reduce what we do at St. Augustine in terms of plant propagation.
Okay, so what will be the focus? That's what I'm trying to get.
Of St. Augustine?
Yeah.
St. Augustine will continue to do what they do now. They will continue to produce at the level that they could produce. But in terms of the future, we're not investing more resources in terms of expanding St. Augustine.
Okay. Could I ask a couple more questions going on? Or am I limited to two?
No, you're not limited to anything. We are now within 002 Productive Sectors,
All right,
page 248.
All right, I'll wait until we
Yes.
get to it.
Item 003, Economic Infrastructure, pages 249 to 253. Member for Miaro.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Minister, item 287, I know there's no provision for 2017. I just wanted to get an update on the Ottawa Fish Landing Facility as to the status of it and if we can expect some activation of it during this fiscal year.
Okay, so just to clarify, 287 has been moved to the IDF, so you'd see the provision for those facilities. Ottawa is, in some areas, the work has been completed, and in some is substantially completed. It will be completed in this fiscal year.
Item, we still in 003?
Yes.
Okay, member for Couva North.
Madam Chair, line item 280, the Orange Valley Wholesale Fish Market upgrade. I see $1 million allocated for that. Minister, can you clarify a little bit as to what type of upgrades?
Well, I could supply you the details. As you know, we met with the fisher folk in that area. There is an issue with parking.
No invitation, though. Yeah. Go ahead.
Member for Couva south. It's nearly tea time. So maybe you would like to start.
My
the ball
apologies if
rolling.
you were not invited. As a matter of fact, you initiated the meeting.
Well, I wasn't informed that you were
Members,
coming to have
is that
it.
a line
My apologies.
item?
Well, I asked him a question, so he...
Yeah,
okay.
so I'll provide you with the details.
All right, Minister, and is this 1 million enough for the upgrade of the Orange Valley Fish
It would
Market?
be enough for this fiscal year.
For this fiscal year, okay.
Member for Caroni Central.
536, Honorable Minister, through the chair. Establishment of community-based aquaculture programs. What is envisaged there?
In some communities, there is a demand for this community-type project. So we have one that was started last fiscal in Quarry Street. We have one that would start in the Talparo area in this fiscal, and that is both for training and production. But again, it's not using the earthen pond. It's using the more modern facilities to develop the product.
Okay, so the difference is that you don't use a pond system.
Yeah.
You use aquaponics.
Yes,
kind
you
of
do.
thing. Right. 359, establishment of the Central Farmers Wholesale Market. Are you thinking of that as the construction of a facility or the establishment of a market using existing facilities?
Where is that?
251, on page 251, sorry.
Page 250.
Right, that is the facility at Woodford Lodge.
Okay.
That is the facility, and as I answered earlier, we've not determined what is going to be the future use of that facility. But in terms of the farmers market, we've decided to try it at the new building in Chaguanas.
Okay. And 252, page 252, 001, is that okay, Madam Chair?
Yes, it is.
Provision of agricultural access to targeted commodities and strategic crops. Have you determined what those are?
Well, that was a land item that was worded in that way, but the criteria used for development of access roads is based on impact to farmers.
Okay. Because
what I found was that roads were being worked on for a variety of reasons, and it's based on impact. For this year, for example, the work that was done in last fiscal has been on those food crop areas, those areas with high output.
Okay. You got my list of agricultural
I got all
roads?
your lists.
Okay.
Member for Tabakit.
One more, Chair.
I'll call you back. Member for Tabakit.
Item 540 under Research and Development, page 250. Establishment of a packing house facility for fresh produce. There were some packing houses that were built, including one at Brothers Road in Tabakit. Can you give an update on the status of that?
Well, substantial resources have been put into that particular house and the one in Brechin Castle. The Board of NAMDEFCO have commissioned an audit into both facilities in terms of establishing what the contractors were required to do, what has been done, what remains to be done, and whether the NAMDEFCO has gotten value for money. And that audit, my understanding is that the final report is going to be handed in soon. And once we understand where we are with it, a decision would be made. But I will say, I mentioned it before, in relation to that facility, Brechin Castle, and the farmers, the wholesale market in Woodford Lodge, NAMDEFCO is considering the prospect of private-public partnership for the operation of those.
Member for Caroni East.
552, the forage farms at Monjaloo. Monjaloo is in the Caroni East constituency. Could you give us a little enlightenment on what that consists of?
Well, the project on Monjaloo was identified as a forage farm to grow feed material for livestock. It's done a good job in terms of servicing the central region.
Yeah, people come from outside and take some of it.
Right. We've put in, the Minister of Finance has put in additional funding for both Monjaloo and La Gloria to expand the forage areas that we have, but also to to put the infrastructure to work. I don't know how much you know, it's in your constituency, but notwithstanding the money that was spent on the development of infrastructure in Monjaloo, a simple thing as the connection, the electricity connection to those facilities has never been done. The facility's been sitting there for several years. So we have some infrastructure work to do in support of those forage farms and to put the buildings to use by the ministry.
We appreciate that.
Yeah, Member for Carney Central.
427 on page 252, farm to table project. It's a new project. What do you conceive of?
Well, even though in a sense, we put the cart before the horse by going into this investment we've made in these packing houses and the facilities, we have not developed a policy and an approach to farm to table. Farm to table means bringing the primary product through to different stages. On one stage, the farmer's market, for example, represents bringing primary production to the end consumer with no middleman. That's one form. An important part of farm to table is also bringing primary production to agro-processors. An important part is bringing primary production to supermarkets and the retail trade and bringing it to the export market. And we have to establish those linkages. We have to create those linkages in a way that it works. And that has been the missing element of farm to table. And this money has been committed to develop those linkages.
Okay, and final question, 001 on 253, acquisition of sites for non-agricultural development purposes. What is that about? Because I see originally is a pretty high revised estimate, 20 million, and then the actual estimate in 2017 is 3 million.
Okay, so that deals with the Commissioner of State Lands manages acquisitions across the state for all agencies and all ministries, and that's been a historical position. The monies owed to the owners of lands which have been acquired for public purposes, it's
okay. So it's that
a significant debt here.
Yeah.
Member for Kamutu Mansinilla.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Honorable Minister, I have a couple of questions. So I'll start on 252 and go back. The first line item 003, rehabilitation and development of physical infrastructure of Plumerton. And I just want to ask, what exactly does the ministry intend how do they intend to go forward with the rehabilitation program? Because as you would be aware, there's a number of problems with irrigation and access roads.
As I said earlier, the PSIP is focused on IT infrastructure, water resource management, and research and extension training. And this falls under water resource management, and this is the phase 3 of the upgrade of the irrigation infrastructure in Plumita. We actually, in this last fiscal year, we've done this phase 2 of that project.
And in line item 426, the rehabilitation of the cocoa industry. As a part, I see it's a new project. Will this project include the labs that has been made mandatory by the signing of the EPA in 2009? Would it include the?
Well, this project will work in tandem with the work of the Cocoa Development Company, and it would produce for the sector the things that are required to maintain Trinidad's standing as a fine cocoa producer.
On page 251, line item 553, the coconut rehabilitation and replanting program. How do you plan to proceed with that program? You could give it to me in writing.
Yeah,
you can give it to me in writing.
Thank
and
you.
Also, as you'd be aware, Mappa Farms is in my area. If you can also provide in the ways that you're going to be developing it and making the provision.
Okay,
in writing.
I will.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Item 004, social infrastructure, page 254. Item 005, multi-sectoral and other services, pages 255 to 257, member for Chaguanas East.
Thank you very much. Honorable Minister, line item 005, reference was made earlier on in our conversation with respect to horticulture. I just want to find out this new project, how are you going to, on what basis, if you haven't already selected, how are you going to select the rural communities and the age group of these young entrepreneurs? How many persons are targeted?
Well, the ministry will develop the criteria and I can provide it to you.
Infrastructure Development Fund, page 362, item 003, Economic Infrastructure, page 362. Item 004, Social Infrastructure, page 363. Honorable members, the question is that the sum of $829,281,240 for head 77, Ministry of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries, stand part of the schedule. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. The sum of $829,281,240 for head 77, Ministry of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries, now stands part of the schedule. I want to thank the Minister, the Parliamentary Secretary, the PS, and the other officers of the Ministry for assisting us. We now move on to head 43, Ministry of Works and Transport. Members, we are in recurrent program, recurrent estimates, page 307. Head 43, Ministry of Works and Transport, $2,448,852,250. I will now invite the Minister of Works and Transport to make a brief opening statement, not exceeding 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Forgive my excitement. I just got news that the election petition was dismissed, the other side, and that by a unanimous... By unanimous...
Minister of Finance, kindly please allow the Minister of Works to make his presentation.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. The Ministry of Works and Transport is a large sector ministry that comprises several statutory authorities, state enterprises, and administrative and technical divisions. Established since 1956, the ministry employs today some 7,354 employees who are responsible for providing the infrastructure and transport services necessary for the social and economic development of our country. These statutory bodies and state enterprises consists of the National Infrastructure Development Company, the National Helicopter Services Limited, the Vehicle Management Company of Trinidad and Tobago, Port Authority of Trinidad and Tobago, Point Lisas Industrial Development Company, the Airports Authority of Trinidad and Tobago, the Trinidad and Tobago Civil Aviation Authority, and the Public Transport Service Corporation. In accordance with its mandate, The ministry provides its clients and the general public with the following services: national planning for roads, drainage and transportation, air, sea and land, construction and maintenance of highways, major and secondary roads, dams and drainage systems, land reclamation and coastal management in collaboration with stakeholders, advice, as well as the construction and maintenance of government buildings and facilities of the Ministry of Works and Transport buildings and facilities, advice on maritime-related matters, advice on purchase, repair, and maintenance of the transport fleet of state agencies, traffic management, registration, classification, licensing, and inspection of vehicles, issuance of driver's permits, enforcement of laws under the Motor Vehicle and Road Traffic Act, management and control of shipping within Trinidad and Tobago waters, registration, licensing, survey and inspection and certification of ships, enforcement of all maritime laws, negotiation and monitoring of air service agreements. The ministry's core divisions are the Coastal Protection Unit, the Construction Division, Drainage Division, Environmental Health and Safety Unit, the Highways Division, Mechanical Services, Maintenance, Maritime Services Division, National Traffic Management Center, the Priority Bus Route Unit, Program for the Upgrading of Roads Efficiency or PURE, Traffic Management Branch, the Traffic Warden Division, and of course the Unemployment Relief Program. Madam President, given today's new economic environment and my observations a few days ago in the debate, that I am astounded at the paucity of conditions of roads and infrastructure across Trinidad and Tobago, we embarked upon this journey and we are seeking, first of all, efficiency, value for money. And as we seek to improve these circumstances and the infrastructure of this country, it is the ethos of the ministry to save money, save time, because as we develop new roads, for example, the Valencia to Toco and the ferry port there, that will get people to Tobago in quicker time. And when we improve the general circumstances of the roads, persons are able to move along a lot swiftly, more swiftly. So we'll be saving money, saving time, and of course, with our road safety programs and our improved traffic management and improvement of the transport division, we propose as well to save lives. I thank you very much and look forward to the questions from my friends.
Honorable members, the question is that the sum of $2,488,852,250 for head 43, the Ministry of Works and Transport, stand part of the schedule. Honorable members, the sum of $2,488,852,250 for head 43, the Ministry of Works and Transport, is comprised of monies proposed for expenditure under the following subheads and items to be found in the draft estimates of recurrent expenditure, the draft estimates of the revenue and expenditure of statutory boards and similar bodies and the Tobago House of Assembly, and the draft estimates of development program. We now proceed to consider the draft estimates of recurrent expenditure. We're at page 307. Subhead 01, personal expenditure, page 307, item 001, general administration, page 307. Item 002, highways. Item 003, traffic management. Item 004, central planning unit. Item 005, drainage. Item 006, mechanical services. Item 007, maintenance. Item 008, construction. Item 012, unemployment relief program. Item 013, general administration transport. Item 014, transport. Item 015, maritime services. Subhead 02, goods and services, page 314. Item 001, General Administration, pages 314 to 315. Item 002, Highways. Item 003, Traffic Management. Member for Tabakit?
Highways, 28, other contracted services. I see there is a allocation of $29.2 million more for 2017. Can the Honourable Minister tell us what kinds of other contracted services will be done under this additional vote?
In light of the demands and the requests that we have had from across the country, most coming from the representatives, our colleagues in the House, we intend to increase the infrastructural works generally. It is for that purpose.
Does the Minister have a list of the projects that have to be done? Or would these be determined as we go along? Or do you now have a list?
Well, we have a conglomeration of all of the requests, and we will go along, as we go along, we will do them.
So that,
bearing in mind, of course, most of all, impact, because we are concerned about the citizens, and wherever the need is most critical, we do so, particularly given the economic circumstances.
So the Minister has not determined the distribution of this $29.2 million as yet?
What we have is all of the requests that has come from the citizens of the country, most of all from the members of parliament who represent them, and that is the pool that we propose to work with on the basis of priority.
At what point in time would a member of parliament therefore be able to ascertain what of his or her projects are on this list?
Well, once he submitted it, he can be assured that it is on the list.
But then you have a limited amount of funding,
well,
and
yes,
therefore as you said, you have to prioritize.
Well, that's the reality that we are all constrained by.
And agreeing that members of parliament have to answer to their constituents, may I therefore ask that if it's possible for the minister to distribute the list of projects that he'll be doing under this so that we can answer to our constituents?
What I can distribute is a comprehensive, if you wish, is a comprehensive conglomeration of all the requests that I have.
Okay.
Member for Caroni East.
114 million was estimated to be spent under that same item in 2016, and 12 million was spent. Of course, over 102 million were not spent. Could you just indicate what would have stymied the implementation of some of these?
I missed your question. What is it?
The same item 28 under contracted services. 114 million was estimated to be spent in that line item in 2016, and 12 million was spent. What would have stymied the implementation of a number of these projects? Is it that you were trying to?
I think it has to do with the fact that some of the work had begun, and when the government changed, I imagine some of the contractors stopped working because they were not paid initially and refused to continue to work until they were paid. So when the releases came, we were able to pay some of them, and then they have recommenced the work in some cases, and we expect that trend will continue going forward.
So it basically was an analysis and then moving forward with it?
Yes, indeed.
Right, okay. So we expect some fast implementation?
Most certainly, now that we have clarified most of the troubles that afflicted us on that occasion.
Right.
Item 003, Traffic Management. Item 004, Central Planning Unit. Item 005, Drainage, Member for Tabakit.
Madam Chair, through you. Minister, 2016 you had $145 million allocated, but only spent $15 million.
Where is he?
Sorry, item page 317.
Yes.
Item 005, Drainage, 28 other contracted services.
Yes.
So you had $145 million estimated, allocated. You spent $15 million in 2016. And now you propose to spend $49.6 million in 2017. Do you have also a list of the projects that you intend to do under this, or what other services are included under other contracted?
It's the same situation where you have, as I say, a conglomeration of the requests, because every day, as you would know from your last outing there, you receive letters, you receive communications from citizens who have issues with drainage. You have them analyzed, you have them assessed, you have them costed, and you get altogether technically ready to get the job done on the basis of the priorities as I described it a while ago.
What would have contributed to the vast underspending by $130 million last year?
Well, I think, as I said, once we went in there, we had to tread very carefully. I think I expressed some of that in my budget contribution. We had to do a lot of verification and checking to make sure, because as you heard me say during the budget, there were circumstances where there were no written contracts. You've heard me say there were circumstances where there were written contracts, and upon investigation, there was absolutely nothing in existence out there, in some cases where it was signed off as 100% complete. So we had to be careful in the public interest before we just threw monies around to make sure that that was properly done. And as well, what we did is to engage a very reputable accounting and procurement set of specialists, KPMG. They came in, they looked at how we were doing it, because I wasn't comfortable to continue on the road that we had gone previously. And they reviewed the entire procurement system, and now we have come up with a more centralized procurement process where we could feel more confident that procurement is better done along the lines of the anticipated procurement legislation. And therefore, I anticipate in the coming year we should proceed more swiftly.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I listened to the minister as he indicated that he had to tread carefully. But there's also a human cost when you tread carefully without understanding that there are some things that ought to be completed because they pose a hazard to human life. And in my constituency in John Peter Road, a project undertaken by Pure was left incomplete. And as a result, a lady from my constituency fell and she was impaled by an exposed steel bar. And a neighbor had to take a bowl cutter and cut out that steel bar while she was impaled, and subsequently she died. So that therefore I understand you tread carefully, but there is sometimes a cost in human life for these things. I just make that comment.
Well, I simply would like to say, based on the fact that you have expressed it, we, the government, and all of the people of Trinidad and Tobago express deep and sincere condolences to the pain that was brought upon that citizen. We are deeply regretful, and I might take the opportunity to say that contractors and their employers have a duty under law to make work sites sufficiently safe in accordance with the law, statutory, and statute and common law for, well, by way of preventing that kind of unfortunate situation. Please express my, when you have an opportunity, MP, express my personal regrets to the citizen who so suffered.
Item 006, Mechanical Services, page 318. Item 007, Maintenance. Item 008, Construction. Item 009, Environmental Health and Safety Unit. Item 010, Traffic Warden Unit, pages 321 and 322, member for Tabakit.
Under Traffic Warden Unit 010, page 321, item number 16, Contract Employment. Madam Chair, the estimates for 2016 was $26.5 million under contract employment, revised down to $20 million in 2016, and now down to a further revision by about a further $3 million to $17 million for traffic wardens. In view of the increasing number of vehicles on the road and the demand for traffic wardens, does this contemplate a reduction in the number of traffic wardens in the country?
It doesn't contemplate that. It doesn't contemplate that at all. It simply is that we this is the reality in which we are put. I mean, we requested 17 million. No, we requested 64 million, and we received what we did. So there's this deficit, and we will proceed. If we find, as you would have heard before during the course of these deliberations, that we need more money, we will be able to justify that, proceed and approach to the Minister of Finance, and hopefully get further monies to continue this important work.
How long?
For the time being, though, I might tell you that some of the contracts of the personnel in the very important traffic warden unit has expired. They continue to be on the job on a month-to-month basis. And in the protection of the public interest, and with the ethos of my ministry being securing value for money, what we have done is not simply rehire them on further contracts, but we have asked our HR department to closely look at the records and the performance of each and every one of those persons, and to satisfy us, the leadership of the ministry, that these individuals are able and willing and are performing efficiently before we extend their contracts. And we do so in the public interest because, just a second, because we are fully aware, unfortunately, that in our country, and more specifically in my ministry, which is in front of me here today, there are many people who are paid to do work in this country, who are being paid and are not doing that work. We intend to ensure that we get value for money in every respect.
How is this analysis of the productivity of these traffic wardens that you speak about going to be done by the supervisors of the traffic warden, the department, or an independent human resource division of the ministry?
Well, the supervisors, obviously, in their conduct of their work as supervisors, will make records, and this is done on an ongoing basis. But the HR department, the professionals, the specialists, they are the ones who will review these performances and come up with a determination by which I'm guided, because I'm not a human resource
expert. Is the minister aware that over the years there are traffic wardens who have complained bitterly about discrimination by on the part of senior officers of the traffic warden division in terms of their continuation in their jobs, and that because of those complaints, those behaviors of the seniors about which they have complained, they feel threatened about their continued existence in the jobs. Is the minister aware of that? And that's why I'm asking, how independent is the human resource division going to do this?
Well, I just told you how independent it would be. It is not the supervisors who will do this evaluation. Ultimately, it will be the HR professionals at the ministry. But in respect of this question of discrimination, I do not recall having received any such complaint, but it is something I will keep an eye and an ear out for, because this government is wholly intolerant of discrimination on any ground.
From Minister, just for a matter of interest, I received many while I was there, investigated them, and many had strong foundations of discrimination.
Well, I can't recall having received any complaint about any allegation of discrimination.
Item 011, Program Monitoring and Evaluation Unit. Item 012, Unemployment Relief Program. Item 013, General Administration Transport. Item 014, Transport Division. Item 015, Maritime Services. Subhead 03, Minor Equipment Purchases, page 326. Item 001, General Administration. Item 002, Highways. Item 003, Traffic Management. Item 004, Central Planning Unit. Item 005, Drainage. Item 006, Mechanical Services. Item 007, Maintenance. Item 008, Construction. Item 009, Environmental Health and Safety Unit. Item 010, Traffic Warden Unit. Item 011, Program Monitoring and Evaluation Unit. Item 012, Unemployment Relief Program. Item 013, General Administration Transport. Item 014, Transport. Item 015, Maritime Services. Subhead 04, Current Transfers and Subsidies, page 331. Item 001, Regional Bodies. Item 003, United Nations Organizations. Item 005, Non-Profit Institutions. Item 006, Households. Member for Point of Appeal.
There's 007, correct?
007.
Yes. To the Honorable Minister, line item under household, line item 10, mentorship program. Could he clarify what that is about?
Yes.
I just checking the
One of the things that we take very seriously, I did say in my opening remarks that this ministry was established as far back as 1956. Part of the mandate of this ministry in practice, I don't know if it was documented, but I do know as well the Prime Minister has asked me to ensure that whatever we can do to encourage and to provide a place where young professionals, young people can get their feet. In the ministry, we must do so. So the ministry is very much involved in engaging in programs where we have young people coming out of, whether it's university or some training institution, they can work within the Ministry of Works and be monitored and guided and mentored so that they will begin their professional lives that way. It used to be so all along, and that basically is what this is all about. Recently, for an example, we had, I think it was 23 graduates out of a collaborative program between the PTSC and the NESC. They did some training at the PTSC's compound, and they're now all employed, assisting in the management of the PTSC's vehicles. That's just an example.
Follow-up question to the Minister, Madam Chair. Under the same mentorship program, how is that different from the OJT program that you would get trainees at your ministry, and also the new university graduate program that is in place, that's supposed to be coming in place?
Well, that is not yet in place, but you know, it is of course contemplated. As I said, wherever we, the government, can find an opportunity to provide these opportunities, we do them.
Follow-up question.
Yes,
how does one get into this mentorship program?
Well, there's an application process. It is well advertised, and there's an application process. It is duly considered, and they are brought in accordingly.
Next question.
Yes, please, Member for Point of Appeal.
Line item number 9, Minister, debit card system for URP employees.
Yes.
Could you just clarify what that is about?
Yeah, there was a time when the URP was paid by checks, and from the information that I have, this proved to be particularly problematic. The fraudsters had themselves field days. An attempt was made many years ago to eradicate those possibilities, and we went to a system where those persons who participated in and benefited from their participation in the URP, which is a social relief program, they would be paid through existing bank accounts in their respective banks. So this debit card system was established, and once you are registered into the program, you are issued by the bank with a debit card, the salary goes into that account, and you can draw to avoid some of the issues that I tried to describe a while ago. That is what that is all about.
Just now, please, member for Chaguanas West. Member for Tabaquite.
Is the debit card has a PIN number that the person used to withdraw the money?
I imagine.
Right. Is the minister aware that there are gang leaders who collect all the debit cards and keep them? These gang leaders actually go and cash in the debit cards?
Well, that could hardly be done without the acquiescence of the card holders, because
that's what
every
I'm
card
telling
holder only gets one. If he or she allows and has a PIN number, if he or she, for any reason, allows...
The system has been beaten, sir.
Well, if any...
It's still going on under the
it
debit
has to be done with the participation
Yes, it is. It's being
of the
done.
PIN holder and the card holder.
It's being done.
And I'll tell you this, there are many people, and this is one of the things, this is where the whole concept of ghost comes in. There are many people who sign up and participate in the URP Unemployment Relief Program. Some people say URP program, but that is duplicitous and redundant. But there are many people who have themselves on these lists and they get paid, but they have other jobs and they're not really keen on performing. And including nurses, you said. I found a couple so that they are quite prepared to give someone who allowed their names to get on these lists half or some part of their salary. So what we are trying to do is to make the system far more efficient to avoid those possibilities altogether.
Member for Couva South?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Item 008, subsidies. Member for Tabaquite.
I noticed that the subsidy for 2017 has been increased by $10 million.
Which line?
Line 1, page 332, 008, line 01.
Yes.
Port Authority contribution towards deficit on operation of the coastal steamers. So the government is spending $240 million this year on the operation of the coastal steamers. The deficit, which is $10 million more. May I ask, what is contributing to this $10 million more that we're going to spend?
Well, it is indeed, as you know, a very costly exercise, and based on the submissions made by the port, it appears as though we will need some extra money in order to do it. We are now entering, for this year, we expect to engage in a dry docking of one of them, which is an extraordinary set of expenditure now that has become due. I imagine that is partly responsible.
Is that dry docking of the Express?
Say again?
Is that dry docking of the ferry that's called the Express?
Yes, yes. That's the one that is due next for the dry docking.
The ferry that is called the Express, did it hit the CARICOM jetty on Saturday night and run aground?
Not from the information that I have. And
then why were divers
source.
sent to examine the underside of the boat to determine whether in fact it was damaged? And hold on. It was running on 3 engines. So the minister aware that it was running on 3 engines before Saturday night, and another engine conked out and was running on 2, and therefore it is possible that the new captains could not control the boat and it hit the CARICOM jetty. Is this true?
That is not from all the information I have from the most fresh and official sources, far from true. On an ongoing basis, these vessels need upgrade and improvement, which is what the dry docking in the new year is expected.
But is the vessel being sent on the dry dock because the other engine went down on its approach back to Trinidad and therefore hit the CARICOM jetty? Is that true, Minister?
No, there's no question of any hit as far as I am aware.
Collision is a better word.
Collision or hit, same thing but different. None from my information.
Member for Couva South.
Thank you, Madam Chair. With respect to 009 other transfers.
No, we are at 008.
Okay, I will
Member for Caroni East, we are at 008.
Yeah, we wait for 009.
Thank you. Member for Naparima. Item 009, other transfers. Member for Couva South.
Thank you, Madam Chair, to the Minister. With respect to 05, the water taxi service, the 2016 estimates were $39,400,000, and under the revised estimates, it increased to 60,040,000. And there's a decrease in 2017 estimates by $24,040,000. Given the statistics before us, Minister, could you assure this meeting that the expenditure or the transfers will be maintained within $36 million? And if it escalates, is there the possibility of a rise in the fare for those who are using the water taxi?
We do not anticipate that it will go beyond the estimates as described here in the document in front of us. We do not anticipate that, and therefore your suggestion about an increase in fare does not arise.
Member for Caroni East. Member for Tabaquite.
No, it will be water taxi service. I just wanted to ask whether, in fact, it's costing less to run the water taxi service. That was all. With that decrease.
No, what has happened is
or what is contemplated?
Recently, we issued a one-off subvention to the tune of $20 or $21 million to do some upgrade of issues on all of those water taxi vessels, water taxis. And given that, we don't expect that we'll be spending as much in this fiscal year.
Where, Minister, is that $21 million included here? Because in 2016 you had 60 million, but you only spent 36. So, you know, where is that? And that 36 relates also to... No, you spent 21 million more in 16. That's the 21.
16.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Item 011, transfers to state enterprises, pages 332 to 333. Member for Naparima.
Thank you very much, Chair. 011, item 07, NIDCO repayment of Trinidad Rapid Rail Transit Systems. And the payment is in 2017 is $21.7 million. Could the Minister describe...
Payment?
Yeah, the payment is 21, the estimate.
Yeah.
It's 21.7 million. Could the Minister describe that project and the utility and the benefit to Trinidad and Tobago given the $21.7 million expenditure?
I don't understand.
The question, you don't understand. What is the project? What are we paying this money for? As a supplemental.
This has to do with loan repayments, as you are fully aware.
Yes.
That are still outstanding.
With respect to which project?
The Rapid Rail Transit System.
Where is it? If you say it is for this project, what is the status of this project?
The current status, you will recall that there was once a program for rapid rail in this country that did not go forward. Recently, the government had announced that we will consider the establishment of a rapid rail system in this country. We consulted with the IDB. We promised this country we would do that. We wouldn't act whimsically on our own energy. We thought that we'll get the expertise of the IDB to tell us. Having consulted with them, they felt that Trinidad and Tobago could not afford or venture this big project at this time, and on that basis, the government decided that it would not, for the time being, proceed with this, what some people consider to be a very necessary project.
To avoid the lack of clarity, is this specifically related to the feasibility, the 500 million feasibility study engaged in
it
prior
was
to
far
2010?
more than a feasibility study, as has been adumbrated in this House by the Minister of Finance and former Minister of Works, and by yours truly on diverse occasions. Far more than a feasibility study. If you want to know precisely what it was, I think the matter came up in the course of our debates in the last session. So, what
would you provide in writing, clear, what it is we are paying the money for?
Most certainly.
And a follow-up question: when will payments end?
All right.
Because I'm seeing on 20.
Member, that's the question.
That will be provided.
All right.
Thank you.
Member for Shogunas East.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Honourable Minister, will you give us some information with respect to line item 04, the term loan facility for 4 new fast ferries?
Yes, well, these are loan repayments via NIDCO.
They already acquired?
In the process.
No. You have a loan repayment?
Yes.
The ferries are here? They're in your possession? When will they? I just want you to elucidate us in terms of this question.
Huh? Yeah, the water taxis. Yeah. They were acquired a long time ago. Yeah.
All right, well, just give us a...
These are continuing repayments on those water taxis.
What was the original obligation?
I can't tell you off now. I can give you in writing. I don't know the figure off my head.
Member for Karen East. Member for Karen East. You pass?
Pass.
Member for Tabakit.
It is the water taxi.
Number 1 under transfers to state enterprise, Vehicle Management Corporation of Trinidad and Tobago.
What number? What
Item 01 under 011, page 332.
Yes.
Mr. Minister, why is it that we have to continue to subsidize the Vehicle Management Corporation of Trinidad and Tobago, which should be operating as a profit center and not being subsidized, given that they get guaranteed work from the police and from other? So why do we continue to subsidize $10 million a year to this company?
Since you oversaw that for a long time, I thought you might be of some assistance in that regard.
I'm asking you now because you're in charge. You're in charge.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Yeah. You did hear me. You did hear me outline a number of. You did hear me outline a number of.
And just a matter of information, I was Minister of Works and Infrastructure. Transport was not under my portfolio at that time. So, I want to be clear what I was in charge of.
Okay. All right, so members, could we just cooperate so that we can get the answer, please?
When I say you, I say so with the principle of collective responsibility firmly in mind, the government. So the point is that I did indicate that we had a number of statutory bodies and state companies, all with the exception of the Trinidad and Tobago Civil Aviation Authority, are dependent on state subventions, government subventions to carry on their work. So the proposition on which your question is based, I agree with. They all should be viable. And the task that is now in front of me, being in charge now, as you just unnecessarily reminded me, is to make them viable.
What is it? What can you present as a transformation plan or strategic plan to transform that organization into a profitable organization?
Well, a transformation plan is now being developed by the new board and the people at VEMCOT, and that will become available to me, and I can quite easily make that available.
Are you giving that as an assurance that you will make that plan available to me?
Of course. It is all public record.
Yeah. Member for Naparima. Member for Karen East.
Item 52 under 06, PTSC. There's a reduction of 56 million, Honourable Minister.
You are there?
Where are we?
Page 333?
Yeah, the chairman had said 322, 333.
We haven't reached this yet.
All right, okay, I'll hold.
Okay. So subhead 06, page 333. Current transfers to statutory boards and similar bodies, 004, statutory boards, page 333. Honorable members, we will now move on to the draft estimates of revenue. Well, don't we do the details in the draft estimates?
That's where my question was.
Yeah, but PTSC will come in the book. But this is only a summary line item. That very information is going to be in the...
That's a line item 52, Madam Chair, PTSC.
Of $56 million on the 367 from 2016. What
okay,
will happen?
Member, may I just ask you to hold that question while you check page 409 of your draft estimates under statutory boards and similar bodies, and see if it's not there, please.
We respect that.
Madam Chairman, could I just intervene for the benefit of members? If you go to this book here, all of the
But we've been doing this for 5 days.
estimates of revenue and expenditure for Tobago House of Assembly and statutory authorities. If you go there, you will see all of the entities under the control of the various ministries. And you will see under Ministry of Works and Transport, Airports Authority, Port Authority, Public Transport Service Corporation, and the Civil Aviation Authority.
All right, so Madam Chair, we wait until that.
Honorable members, we will now move on to the draft estimates of the revenue and expenditure of the statutory boards and similar bodies and of the Tobago House of Assembly. We are at page 375, 39, Airports Authority of Trinidad and Tobago, subhead 01. 001, General Administration, page 375. 002, Passenger and Cargo Terminals. 003, Airport Operations. 004, Runways, Taxiways, Grounds and Car Parks. 005, Security. Subhead 02, Goods and Services, page 376. 001, General Administration. 002, Passenger and Cargo Terminals. 003, Airport Operations. 004, Runways, Taxiways, Grounds and Car Parks. 005, Security. Subhead 03, Minor Equipment Purchases, page 378. 001, General Administration. Subhead 04, Current Transfers and Subsidies. 007, Households, page 378. 009, Other Transfers, page 379. We go on to page 390. 50, Port Authority of Trinidad and Tobago. Subhead 01, Personal Expenditure. 001, General Administration, page 390. Tabakit, member for Tabakit.
On the personal expenditure overtime, in 2016, the revised estimate for overtime for monthly paid officers was $6,570,000. How suddenly the minister proposes to drop this by $1.779 million and get the same level of efficiency? How do you propose to do that? Or is it that you are saying that in 2016 there was waste, corruption, and mismanagement that led you to $6.57 million?
I did not say that. Very unlikely to have happened in 2016. Might have happened a lot before.
It was low in 2015, 5.114.
But in keeping with current economic circumstances and our insistence on value for money, we feel that we can cause the job to be done with a smaller bill, or we can get the job done with a smaller bill in terms of...
Then are you saying that the monthly paid staff at the Port Authority for all these years have been really performing under their productive capacity?
And as well, but that's possible, and as well, I'll tell you this, there are arrangements on the port now that are being reviewed. We are now wanting to move to what they call the 5 in 7. As it now stands, current arrangements is that a person can do 1 day's work, and if that is on a holiday or on a weekend, he or she begins to earn overtime before completing 8 hours. So we are rearranging that. We are engaged in discussions with the union and other stakeholders, and fortunately we are getting favorable feedback. That is a situation that might exist only in Trinidad and Tobago, and current circumstances cannot embrace or accommodate that, so we are attempting to come out of that. You might see a reduction in overtime as a result.
And does that policy hold also for the engineering division, the marine division, and the wharves division?
all divisions, wherever it exists, we want to make it more efficient and save the taxpayers of this country unnecessary and wasteful expenditure while getting the service done in a way a proper and modern first world country ought to.
Member for Point of Pear.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To the Honourable Minister, under the Wharves Division 005,
Yes.
line item 02.
We haven't
gotten there yet, I don't think.
Okay. 002 Engineering Division. 004 Marine Division. 005 Wharves Division. Member for Point of Pear.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To the Honourable Minister, Wharves Division, line item 02, wages and cost of living allowance.
Yes.
There's a 30.8 million decrease for 2017. What would account for that major decrease? Is it a loss of jobs in that division? Could you explain?
Well, I think no, I don't think it has anything to do with any loss in jobs. It is simply that, as I indicated a while ago, if we make the adjustments that we expect we'll make, the wage bill altogether would be a lot less. And
how do you propose to make the wage bill a lot
Well,
less?
as I said, we are engaged in renegotiation with the unions. The management is taking a different approach, and we are trying to make the situation a whole lot more efficient. If, of course, we need more money, as I said before, we will have to approach the Ministry of Finance for it, but we anticipate a reduction on the basis of our plans.
Madam Chair, can I just ask a follow-up in respect? I hear the Minister talked about making adjustment or call upon the Minister of Finance if they need more funding. But if the Port Authority, in their estimate in this budget, they have gotten 60, and I use the line item 02, 60.5 million.
Yes.
That is their budgeted figure for the year. They would have to adjust to suit that figure.
Well, the other thing is, and this is a point you must take into account, is that there has been a general, given international economic slowdown, there has been a general reduction in the amount of business that comes to both our ports, Flipdeco and the Port of Spain. And as a result of the general reduction in the amount of activity, we don't expect that we'll have to spend so much money. Of course, we look forward to spending more if you had that on the basis of an increase in economic activity from which we, Trinidad and Tobago, should benefit.
Item 006 Cruise Ship Complex. Subhead 02 Goods and Services, page 391. 001 General Administration. 002 Engineering Division. 004 Maritime Division, Marine Division, sorry. 005 Wharves Division. 006 Cruise Ship Complex. Member for Point of Pear.
To the Honourable Minister, under Cruise Ship Complex, line item 21, repairs and maintenance of buildings, 6.1 million, and also could he clarify what is happening in that area? Given that we...
Yes, we anticipate... Yes, we anticipate some civil works in respect of the facilities down there. Yes, it is that will account for that increase. We plan to do some civil works on those buildings.
Subhead 03 Minor Equipment Purchases, page 393. 001 General Administration. 002 Engineering Division. 004 Marine Division. 005 Wharves Division. 006 Cruise Ship Complex. Subhead 04 Current Transfers and Subsidies, page 394. 007 Households. Member for Couva South.
Madam Chair, to the Minister, with respect to 03 Gratuity General Administration, there's an increase in your estimated by $12.6 million. Could the minister clarify?
I am advised that we expect approximately 45 persons to retire in this coming fiscal, and that is what will generally account for that allocation. And of course with gratuities.
009, other transfers. 52, Public Transport Service Corporation, subhead 01, personal expenditure, page 409, 001, general administration.
Where we pay?
002, vehicles and equipment maintenance. 007, property development services. 008, transit express commuter services.
Page 409, the personal expenditure. The question I was asking, the reduction of $19 million from 213 to 190.
What item are you on, member, for carrying?
01. You passed there?
We on 008, transit express commuter services.
A bullet there.
Subhead 02, goods and services, page 410. 001, general administration. 002, vehicles and equipment maintenance. 005, Port of Spain Transit Center. 006, Para Transit Unit. 007, Property Development Services. 008, Transit Express Commuter Services. Subhead 03, page 412, Minor Equipment Purchases. 001, General Administration. Subhead 04, Current Transfers and Subsidies, page 412. 007, Households. 009, Other Transfers. 57, Trinidad and Tobago Civil Aviation Authority. Subhead 01, Personal Expenditure, page 422. 001, General Administration. Member for Point of Pay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To the Honourable Minister, line item 01. Just for my own clarification, how large a staff is at civil aviation for 56.6 million?
I can tell you that at a later stage. The exact figure doesn't. I'm not with it at the moment.
Subhead 02, Goods and Services. 001, General Administration. Member for Chaguanas East.
Madam Chair, thank you. Page 422, line item 16, contract employment, substantial amount. Might we get an idea as to what comprises that 9.913 million, the allocation?
I would provide that to you in writing at the first opportunity, member.
Okay. May I also ask for line item, madam? Line item 28, if you're providing, can you give us an explanation on the other contracted services?
Again, I should provide that to you in writing.
Member for Chaguanas West.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Similarly, Madam Chair, to the Honourable Minister, line item 27, official overseas travel, $3.5 million.
Yeah.
I want an explanation of that.
Well, the Civil Aviation Authority, by virtue of what it does, appears that represents Trinidad and Tobago and plays a major role in the international arrangements in respect of civil aviation, and from time to time they are required to participate in these conferences and elections around the world, and that is where we allocate the money for that purpose.
Subhead 03, minor equipment purchases, 001, general administration, page 423. Subhead 04, current transfers and subsidies, page 423, 001, regional bodies, member for Tabakit.
The current transfers and subsidies, there's a figure here of 11,966,900. The minister said that in the earlier conversation that the Trinidad and Tobago Civil Aviation Authority does not require subsidies. However, on page 333 of the details of estimates of recurrent expenditure, and this is why I want to ask under that, item 57, there is a current transfers of $20 million this year, $22 million last year to civil aviation. In any case, this 11.966 is less than the $20 million reported here on the expenditure sheet. What is the difference on?
Let me just ask you something. We're looking here at current transfers and subsidies.
Sure.
Is there an item here? Could you tell me the item with civil aviation?
It's current transfers and subsidies. This comes under Trinidad and Tobago Civil Aviation Authority. Okay? The amount of current transfers and subsidies is 11,966,900 in 2017, right? But in this book, it shows here that the civil aviation has a subsidy of 20 million this year and had 22 million last year. But I recall the minister saying that civil aviation is the one body that does not require subsidies or transfers.
Let me clarify that. It is a statutory body under the ministry, and it does receive transfers and subsidies. But the point I was making is that by virtue of what it does, it earns money from other users of our airspace. Well, I wouldn't say earn. It receives money for other aircraft passing through the airspace that we have some jurisdiction over, and that's the basis on which I made the comment that I did. In other words, there is some money available to it through that means, but it is a statutory...
Why are you subsidizing what is essentially a profitable institution? Why are you promoting
I do not know if you could consider that profit. I'll have to get advice on that.
Well, they have excess cash.
No, well, that does not necessarily mean that it is profitable. It may collect money in the circumstances as I have described it, but I'll need advice before I can answer that question.
Member for Caroni East, we have a certain procedure here, please.
The cash reserve, they were able to put up their own buildings, therefore it cannot be that they are unprofitable.
Huh? That was the question?
Yes.
What was the question?
Are you aware that out of their cash reserves, they were able to build their own facilities? So it cannot be that they are not earning enough cash in order to meet their expenses.
Well, I do not know. As I said, I'll have to seek advice before I can comment further upon those very technical arrangements.
No problem.
Item 004, international bodies. Item 007, households. Honorable members, we will now move on to the draft estimates of development program. We're going to a different book, subhead 09, development program consolidated fund. We are at page 140. Consolidated fund, page 140.
Thank you.
Item 001, pre-investment, pages 140 to 142. Member for Caroni East.
Under Administrative Services 001, 2, and 3, a certain amount was estimated to be spent in 2016. The revised estimates show that, well, of course, seems nothing was done. Would the Minister give us an understanding of this aspect of the development of the National Transportation Plan, establishment of a transit authority, and development of a railway system? Nothing was spent on that, it would seem. So does it mean that no work was done on those issues?
We are to embark
140.
upon a data collection exercise in respect of the transportation plan. That's the transportation study phase 1, and it is for that this minor allocation has been made. And in respect of the transit authority, we are to engage a consultant to develop detailed functions, organizational structure, procedures, legislative requirement, and an implementation plan with respect to the establishment of a transit authority.
And the railway system, have you abandoned that issue?
Well, I think I commented on that
All
a
right.
while ago.
So with good intention, you meant to have it done in 2016, but you were unable to complete.
Yes, thank you very much, Chairman. On 003, there was an estimate in 2016, yes, administrative services, are we there? Yes. 2016 estimate of $5 million that was not revised for the development of a railway system. No estimate 2017. Could you tell us what the $5 million was used for with this railway system and what that entails?
It was not utilized from the advice I have.
Okay. Sure.
Item
So the money would have returned to the consolidated fund. Okay, thank you.
Item 003, economic infrastructure, pages 143 to 147. Member for Chaguanas West.
Chair, item 005, flood alleviation and drainage program. Is this the IDB funded program for Port of Spain? Drainage of Port of Spain?
Yes, this is it. Yes, that is indeed it.
Honorable Minister, could you give us an appreciation, a quick appreciation of the status of that, or you should put it in writing?
I can give you a quick appreciation. We have, based on our observation, nothing substantial was done or accomplished before we went to government at the end of 2015. So we have immediately begun a process of re-engaging the IDB, and we have been in consultations with them. We now are at the point where we have hired a leader for the implementation unit. We are at the point where we are removing the persons who staff that implementation unit who have admitted that they were unable to carry on with any of the functions that they were supposed to. And we have secured from the IDB an assurance that they will provide for us a consultant at no cost to the government of Trinidad and Tobago to work along with our project implementation unit. So in terms of status, the project is well and truly alive and on its way with great hope to deliver a flood alleviation program to the people of Trinidad and Tobago in the city of Port of Spain.
Member for Boise.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To the Honourable Minister, line item 007, expenses of the project execution unit. A revised estimate of 2.9 was spent in that unit, and an estimated 2.5 to be spent in 2017. Could the Minister clarify or explain what kind of expenses would have been met?
As I just indicated, since the establishment of that project execution unit, very fat salaries have been paid to those persons who were so employed. And as you heard me say, without challenge, nothing was done. And therefore, precious little, and not commensurate with the money that was paid. So in any event, we are now re-scoping the project. We are redesigning the project implementation unit, and therefore we expect we'll spend much less money in so doing and accomplish the goal that we should have set out to a long time ago.
Member for Caroni East. I'll come back to you.
Item 001, Honourable Minister.
Yes.
Major river clearing program.
Say again?
Item 001 on page 143.
Yes.
There was an estimate, an allocation of 11 million, but 3 million was spent. But we had a lot of flooding in central Trinidad, particularly my constituency. What would have caused the lack of implementation of this program that we only spent about 20% of it? when we ought to have done a lot more for the river clearing program. And that goes hand in hand with 008 support for the flood elevation program.
23, item 001, major
Yeah.
river clearing program.
That's it, Madam Chair, yeah.
Member, sorry?
Yeah, you spent 3 million out of the 11 million that was allocated.
Yeah.
But we had a lot of flooding across central Trinidad and certain areas in south.
Yes.
And why couldn't, what prevented the implementation of a more effective and efficient program so that we could have cleared more of the rivers and you utilize your funding that was allocated to you?
Well, I am told by the experts that part of the reason for the flooding would have been the sheer excess volume of the weather, of the rain.
Oh God,
so I am not easily accepting that it is the program or any such thing. I am told by the experts that it has to do with a phenomenal amount of
All right,
rainfall.
what prevented then
And of course, as well, clearing of all of the drains, the major river courses and all the smaller ones for which the regional corporations have responsibility for. The experts tell me as well, and this is advice from the ODPM and others, that we in Trinidad and Tobago are engaged in the bad practice of throwing all kinds of things in the drains, from styrofoam and plastic bottles to fridges and wardrobes and what have you. And all of these are very severe contributing factors to the problem.
Sure, Minister, but notwithstanding these preventive aspects which you are speaking about, but what
Yes.
about the remediation aspect?
Yes, well, that is ongoing. That is ongoing. We propose
But
to
not effectively and efficiently, not based on your figures here, not as efficient and effective as we would like.
That unsurprisingly is your interpretation, but that is not ours.
Thank you very much. Two questions, one on page 143 and one on page 144. 143, major river clearing program. If the minister can give a commitment to provide a list of the rivers that have been identified for this clearing program so that the ministry has boldly made an estimation that they require, well, much more than 8, but they have been given $8 million. They had 11 million in 2016. They only, well, they may have spent 3 because we don't have actual figures. It was revised downward to 3 million from 11. It means that the program of works was not undertaken as planned by the ministry. I would like to ask the minister why he allowed this to happen, and if he can provide us with a list of those rivers that they intend to clear in the coming fiscal.
Before I tell you anything about the list, I could tell you the Soledad River Improvement Works, which involves walling and paving to mitigate flooding in the Claxon Bay and Gasparilla area, is 40% completed. Ongoing rehabilitation works of the facility, pump house and gates, tender documents for the Caroni River Improvement Works, Phase 2 being finalized, confirmation of funds requested in the first quarter fiscal 2017, and thereafter tender documents would be done. And the amount owing from fiscal 2016 is 2.7 million. In respect of, that's the Soledad River works is going on there. We have work 40% to be completed insofar as the Caroni irrigation area is concerned, the Ottawa River improvement works, and that is improvement works to tributaries of the Ottawa River and construction of a series of retention ponds, and the Caroni River Improvement Works Phase 2. This project involves the rehabilitation of the failed sections of the watercourse and also to include berm and embankment works from St. Helena to the Southern Main Road. But in respect of your request for a list, I should provide you with a more comprehensive list.
Yeah, and you may want to look on, can you look to see if the Kuchawan River between Debe Hindu School and Gandhi Village is included in that goodly list that you may have?
I would most certainly do so.
And the next question,
very familiar with Kuchawan.
and the next question, as I had asked, the Kuchawan, yes. I know the minister has an addiction to value for money, so I rest that there. The purchase of 100 buses, 050. We noticed in 2016, the ministry estimate was 14 million. But we're on page 144, bus transport. Now, it was revised downwards to 1 million, but that is not actual. That is just a revision downwards.
Yes.
Clearly, you did not, your ministry did not purchase any bus. I wanted to know what went wrong in the year and whether the 14 million was also returned to the consolidated fund.
Well, let me just, for the sake of honesty and fairness and balance, indicate that not a single bus was bought for the last 5 years.
No, that's not true. He knows that's not true.
You know that's not true.
Right. Yes, for at least for Tobago, where we had a little issue, coming to think of it. But yes, we are in the process of acquiring 35 more. In fact, we need more than that, but we are allocating this money to purchase 35 in the ensuing year.
35 buses at $1 million?
Well, they will not each cost that, but that is the average or the estimate that we have for that. Because you'll have different sizes, you'll have some for the disabled, and therefore that's an average figure.
Thank you. He's receiving advice.
I know.
I just want to return to item 005, flood alleviation drainage program. I just want the minister, since it's an IDB program, and there is a dissonance in opinion as to what was done and what wasn't done, I'd like the minister to provide us provide this honorable house with the committee with a listing of the conditionalities and whether or not these conditionalities were fulfilled in accordance with the loan and
Most
the time
obliged.
period for fulfillment.
Most obliged.
And I listened to your river program for clearance, and I noticed that the Kaparu River and by extension the sinkhole that was created, that project, which is a major flood alleviation of central Trinidad, nothing has been done or allocated for.
It is one that is enjoying or gaining our attention. It requires, from the advice I have from the expert, the director of drainage, that it's a tremendous amount of work to be done, and we are getting on with it. We did some clearing in anticipation of the rains as they now come, but we have some major works to carry on there, and it is well within our focus.
So whilst it is within your rumination, Honourable Minister, I just want to indicate to you that you can utilize the naturally occurring sinkhole that took place here that can store something like 221 million gallons of water. That can, in fact, be a dual purpose, both for potable treatment and for drainage.
Yeah, the design, I am reminded that the design is completed and it does take into account that natural phenomenon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Honorable Minister, I just want to ask in terms of your infrastructure 003, infrastructure rehabilitation and flood mitigation, that when your...
Where is she?
Page 143.
You going back?
143.
No, we written page 143 and 147. We at page 143, that's where you are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
003, infrastructure rehabilitation and flood mitigation. Honorable Minister, are you aware that in my area in particular, there's some remedial work being done, and it has actually compromised the riverbank in a major way, and I would like for you to consider having your monitoring and evaluation division, if that is, you're responsible for that, to ensure that works are not compromised and you go against the mitigation plan.
Most certainly.
For Hoover South?
Madam Chair, going back to 144, page 144, bus transport 050, with the commitment that was given to my colleague Orapuchis that 35 buses will be purchased in the forthcoming fiscal year. Could I get an assurance from the minister that the rural bus route, so the rural bus service that was stopped in areas such as Phoenix Park and Windsor Park and Indian Trail and so on, will be restored?
I am not immediately able to tell you what was stopped, but certainly when we acquire more buses, obviously we'll be able to meet more routes and
In the
provide more
interest
service
of
to all
equity
people
and
of
balance
Tobago.
and fair play and so on.
Thank you, Madam Chair. With respect to page 144, line item 050, the purchase of the buses, could the Honourable Minister indicate to us what the size of the fleet in Trinidad and in Tobago? And how many are working and how many are not working?
Right. We have in service 220 rolled out today. 220 buses would have rolled out as at today.
In Trinidad?
Yes.
How many can't roll?
Right. I am told very sadly that about 95 of them are not serviceable.
95.
But about 220, as I indicated, would have rolled out today.
What
And
about
I'll tell
the-
you this.
Sure.
I'll tell you this. Part of the problem, you must know, honorable member, is that we found ourselves as a nation, as PTSC, with something like about 27 or 28 different species or brands of buses in our fleet. That, the experts tell me, is very, very severely untenable. Perhaps you wouldn't find it anywhere else. So right now we are engaged in a process of trying to rationalize the fleet and bring it more soberly and sensibly to 3 or 4 as exists as a best practice anywhere in the world. That is part of the problem. So we are trying to sort that out.
Honourable Minister, Madam Chair, you indicated it was 200 and something that rolled. Is that to Trinidad and Tobago?
Let me clarify that. Yes.
Okay. How many are unable to roll in Tobago?
Well, there are about 18 of them on the road as we speak. We did some repairs to some of them recently. It went severely low. We've come back up to about 18 now. And as I said, I was in Tobago recently at the scene of a very horrific accident, and we give a commitment that out of the 35 we will acquire this year, a substantial number of them will go to Tobago.
How much is that number that you propose?
We expect about 20 of them we should send to
20,
Tobago.
so 15 will stay in Trinidad and 20 in Tobago?
Yes, and then that's just 35 of a number that we hope to acquire. But we're starting with 35 in this fiscal.
Member for Caroni East.
Honorable Minister, line item 155, supply and installation of New Jersey. That's page 144.
Where are we? Page 144?
Page 144.
Yes.
Item 155.
Yes.
Supply and installation of New Jersey type barrier on highway medians.
Yes.
With good intention, you had put in an estimate of 8 million, but unfortunately it seems as though work was done, or well, 500,000 was spent. And now you're putting only 2 million for it. What is happening there? 8 million you estimated in 2016, nothing was done, and then you only put in 2 million now. What happened? The medians have sorted themselves out?
No, we have completed the majority of the, first of all, we went for the cable barriers. Huh?
That's in New Jersey median barriers. Yeah.
Yeah, we have done, yes. So now we are using, because we have found that the cable barriers are very expensive, very troubling to maintain. Once they take a hit, it's very costly to maintain them. So we have decided to use, where we can, the New Jersey barriers. And that's what's happening
But
now.
with your good intention, unfortunately, it hasn't been done yet. Do you?
It is a work in progress. It is happening all the time. That's just one aspect of the traffic management. That's just one aspect of the road safety program and traffic management.
But based on
a lot else is happening.
Based on the answer you gave about the cable barriers that they found it to be expensive, would you no longer be continuing the barriers that have been destroyed or damaged?
No, we repair them.
You repair them. But
them.
would you not be putting any more new cable barriers?
Well, I would be guided by the experts, because it is, the cable barriers are far more, what they tell me, they are far more forgiving than the New Jersey barriers. The New Jersey barriers, when you go along them, when you hit on them, there's a crash, whereas the cable barriers absorbs the shock, and it has a tendency to save lives a little more than the New Jersey barriers.
Yeah.
So they are more advantageous for the human who commits the error of getting on them, but they are more costly.
But
so it's a balance we have to find.
I think, yeah, you have to look at that very carefully, because
And
patients...
this is the reason why we are very strong on the question of general road management and behavior of our citizens driving on the roads.
Yeah,
Member for Kamuto, Mansinilla.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In the interest of time, Honorable Minister, page 144, line item 221, can you provide a list of the roads and bridges you intend to rehabilitate, please? Particularly for my constituency. Thanks.
Most certainly.
145. 831 is part of a new project. Just for clarity, Minister, you have acquisition of 2 multi-purpose vessels, but you have 100,000. Now, what vessel you buying for $50,000? A dinghy? A raft? What vessel you intend to purchase with 100,000 and you're buying 2?
This sum only envisages preparatory work, inclusive of studies of various shipyards to be undertaken in fiscal 2017.
So it's a study money. Thank you.
Well, you have to think first.
I heard the minister say that he most likely will be not replacing, but will be using the Jersey barriers now instead of the cable barriers.
Well, let me clarify that. As I sought to do a while ago when your colleague raised the matter, we will continue to maintain and repair what we have. We will install cable barriers where we have to. But if the advice from the experts is that we can safely or best efficiently use New Jersey barriers, we would do that.
Member Fisher gonna sweat.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I'm on administration on page 145, expenses of the Program Management Unit, PO. Madam Chair, I would like the Minister to give us an appreciation of the monies owed to contractors by PO and a payment format for that.
Yeah, when I came to office, we had owed about $484 million to contractors through the PURE program. Today, happily, we are now down at 263. We paid over 200 million of that, and as monies become available and we verify the work as having been efficiently and properly done, we continue to pay.
Could the Honourable Minister give us an appreciation as to when this monies owed to contractors would be paid?
As I said, as soon as it becomes available, and as soon as they are all verified as being properly
and whilst I have you on the payment format and track pathway, Madam Chair, through you, Honourable Minister, you know I have made representation for very small sums of money to small contractors on the URP program. And I have been told that there are no releases under the URP program to pay these small contractors. Perhaps you should pay some attention to that also.
Yes. Well, you know, as the country ought to by now know, we are having some challenges for cash, for money, but as soon as the releases come, having verified the work, particularly as soon as we verify, we will make the payments.
Item 005, multi-sectoral and other services, page 147 and 148. Members, you have to make some judicious use of our time. Page 147 to 148. All purchase.
Minister, I took note of your comment that you are strapped for cash and so on. Minister, does it concern you that your ministry has been able to spend less than 33% of the money made available to the ministry? And secondly, at page 147, 002 and 001, could you identify the nature of construction of facilities San Fernando and Tobago for VIMCOT and the expansion, what expansion at VIMCOT facilities in BTAM that you intend to do in 2017?
Yes, in respect of the BTAM, this expenditure, it has to do with the water recycle treatment reclaim system, air conditioning upgrade, automated car wash system, car wash building, electrical works for automatic car wash, plumbing for automatic car wash and administrative building, installation of a floor slab for the automatic car wash building. And all of this is designed to generate revenue by offering an automatic car washing system to the general public, and the scope of works involves installation of automatic car wash system and the other things as I've just described, with a view to raising revenue.
Saying that VIMCOT, a state entity, is now going into car washing for the public?
one of the ways that VEMCOT recommended that it can raise revenue to meet the expectations of our friend from Tabakit, who wonders why the government must spend money when these should be self-supporting.
But you have spent less than a third of the money. Okay,
answering.
I'm sorry. Just I'm concerned.
So that the VEMCOT board and management recommended a long time ago that they should raise monies by providing services to the general public, and that includes a car wash facility.
Infrastructure Development Fund, page 315, item 001. Member for item 001, pre-investment, page 315. Item 003, economic infrastructure. Item 005, multi-sectoral and other services.
315, can I?
No, I'm now on page 319.
319. Oh, okay.
Honorable members, the question is that the sum of $2,488,852,250 for head 43, the Ministry of Works and Transport, stand part of the schedule. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. The sum of $2,488,852,250 for head 43, the Ministry of Works and Transport, excuse me, now stands part of the schedule. Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Pierre.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, the
Thank you very
representatives
much, colleague.
from the Ministry of Works and Transport.
Thank you, Pierre.
Okay, members, it is
All the best.
5:13. I suggest that we take a 15-minute break. We're back here at 5:30. Thank you. 5:30.